Hey everybody, we are live. こんばんは。晚上好. You got your coffee, you're ready to go. All right. Hey, it's your friend Anming here from the Oriental Pearl channel. It's so nice to see you on this lovely evening. It is 11:30 p.m. here in Tokyo, but probably afternoon where you're at. Hey, Kendrick, nice to see you here. He's probably one of the biggest fans by a long shot. He's always supporting everything. So I always say thank you in the comments, and I just want to say thank you on the screen. All you guys are hardcore fans if you're here for this. I'm trying to do more live streams. The last few have been generally about studying Asian languages. I'm talking about Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, Cantonese. I'm talking about Japanese. We're talking about Korean. But this time, we're going to put more focus on studying Japanese because I know most of you out there who watch my channel are interested in Japan. So, of course, we can answer questions about the other languages too, but the main focus of today is going to be on Japanese. And to switch it up a little bit here, we have a special guest. Of course, I'm not the only Japanese speaking YouTuber out there. I got to give credit to the people that came before me as well, who have been doing this for much longer. My Dai Senpai, our mystery guest who is in the thumbnail, who we're going to talk to in about a couple minutes here. He's waiting on the line. But let me just say hi to everyone. O genki desu ka? Hi, genki desu. Ciao, Anming. Hi from California. Adam, welcome everybody. They're coming on in. Hello, teacher. How to become a polyglot. Hi. That's a good question. What is the definition of a polyglot? Because arguably, maybe both me and our guest today could be considered polyglots, but I don't really know exactly where to draw the line. For me personally, I have been studying Chinese for 12 years, Japanese for 9 years, and then just started Korean 2.5 years ago. So those three are pretty solid, although Korean's a new one. And then about 6 months ago, I started with Cantonese, which has been a lot easier to study since I know Mandarin, but not quite fluent in Cantonese yet. So I got 3 plus English. Is that polyglot material? I don't know. You tell me. Konbanwa sensei. Yup. Nice to have you here. Arigatou gozaimasu. Hello from Finland. Kyo hajimemashite. Oh, are we meeting for the first time? Ojouzu desu. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. It's either ojouzu or umai desu. So 안녕하세요. 환영입니다. Nice to have you here. Yeah, we'll be using a little bit of Chinese, Korean, and a lot more of Japanese in this stream today because luckily I have someone who knows some of all 3. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And where are all of you watching from today? I'm curious. Here I am in Tokyo, Japan. Our guest is in America. Where are you, my friend? Where are you watching from today? I expect a lot of Americans. And if you are American, where in America are you watching from? If you're on the West Coast, kudos to you because it's rather early. Can't do this too late because it is 11:30 here. We got Chicago. We've got the UK. We've got Alabama in the house. Holland is in the house. Brazil, Netherlands. 나는 호주에 있어요. We got Australia in the house. 3 hours from Detroit. Hey, someone from my area of the world. I'm from the Detroit area. El Salvador. We got California. Igirisu. We got the UK in the house. Dallas, Texas. Hugh is from Tokyo. Wow, crazy. I would have guessed North Korea. Nice to have you all here. Pennsylvania, Brazil, Utah, Philippines, Scottsdale, Arizona. My mom used to live out there in the Phoenix area. Minnesota, Ohio, from uptown Minneapolis, closer to my hometown, Detroit, Michigan, Brazil. All right. I'm so happy to have you here because, hey, you actually showed up. This is a big channel, but to have you here, that means you're like the hardcore of the hardcore. Malaysia's in the house. I knew I had some Malaysian fans. 이기리스, 에? 한국 사람. 나는 한국 사람. Really? Are you really? That's cool if that's true. Then we have Koreans. People, are you watching from Korea? Hello from Kyiv. That's kind of amazing. So international. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm here today. We're going to introduce a guest in about 5 minutes as you're all funneling in here. And yes, we will be asking about Duolingo. I just saw that in the comments section. So I have my own opinions about Duolingo. I know a lot of you are using it. I'm going to definitely bring that up in conversation today. Is Duolingo a good way to start learning Japanese specifically? What's interesting is Duolingo has a huge audience of people that want to study Japanese. I saw that it's like number 3. Spanish, and then perhaps French was second, and then Japanese was third for their user base. So they have a massive number of people like you using it to study Japanese, but is it the best way to study? Honestly, it could be good for some languages. Right now, as I'm studying Cantonese, I'm finding that it's very different than Korean, Japanese, and Mandarin Chinese because there is just not a lot of material. And when I say not a lot of material, I mean like barely any. So when you start getting into the rarer, less widely studied languages, then you're going to have the issue of running out of material. And in that case, perhaps Duolingo's in the running. But for a language as widely studied and popular as Japanese, is it the best tool? Well, we're going to talk about that today. It helped you learn hiragana and katakana. Well, that you could use pretty much anything. But we will definitely get into that topic today because it's just so freaking popular. Along with many other things. Today, we're going to be talking about, is it important to study from a textbook? We have a lot of people bad-mouthing textbooks and teachers, especially in the last 3 months or so in the Japanese learning space on YouTube. A lot of people saying that's a waste of time. Why are you doing that? Waste of time, waste of money. And a lot of people proposing that you should not spend a dime on this, although you're so committed. But could do all that for free. Apparently, that's what's out there. That's what's being said. And we're going to talk about that. What are the downsides or the upsides to using a textbook? Why are people against it in the first place? Why are people against using online courses or teachers in the first place? And have they gotten that wrong? Yes, all these things are waiting for us today. All these good discussions. Talk about Detroit pizza. Buddy's Pizza is the best. People out of state might not know what that is. And then we're going to get into, oh my goodness gracious, Jim Ross in the chat. Jim is the biggest contributor to this channel by a long shot. Hey, Alyssa, I'm here this morning getting my butt up to catch this before the last day of the Canadian Finals Rodeo. 2 rounds to go. Some things have beat my Japanese studies, but rodeo combined with your live, well, it does get better. I need my motivational fix. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jim, for your very generous donation. And he donated last time too. I really appreciate that, especially because for this stream, I upgraded my software. I had to pay $50 to get it to a little bit better quality and make it a better experience for you and my guests today. So I appreciate that. That's going to cover half of the cost of upgrading for the live stream. Yeah, Jim Ross is amazing, right? He's been to my house. He's coming back again to study in Japan for another month, which is quite cool. And he's over 70 years old and studying Japanese. So to be honest, I didn't have the advantage of learning these languages when I was a kid. Everything I learned and know today, I learned after the age of 20. So I'm especially envious of our guest today that he got such a early head start on Japanese. It's of tremendous advantage. But hey, for all of you out there that are studying as adults, don't worry. it's not over for you. There's big advantages to starting earlier, but hey, you're not out of the game, so don't worry. I certainly started quite late in life. Even Korean was really late. Um, I just started Korean maybe 2 years ago. I mean, yes, over 70 and learning languages. Isn't that incredible? He's inspirational. He came to Japan by himself. But you know what? There is something to be said about starting earlier as well. And, that's good also. You can probably cement it in your mind. I have to maintain the languages quite a lot. I still, even despite living in Japan, I still do about an hour of dedicated Japanese study per day, along with, ideally, I try to do 2 to 3 hours of Korean on average. And I try an hour of Cantonese, but I miss the mark a lot. But I do a lot. This month, my study hours were 110 hours. If you figure that out daily, that's like 4 hours daily or so. So it's kind of hard as an adult, but it's not impossible, especially if you have a lot of time. Okay, enough blabbing. If you didn't notice, today we have a special guest, someone who is very, very knowledgeable about not only studying Japanese, but teaching Japanese. So without further ado, let me introduce my Dai Senpai from the channel Learn Japanese from Zero, Mr. George Trombley. Welcome. Hey. Nice to have you here.
I'm honored to be here.
Hey, you should have been on the channel a long time ago. This was long overdue, in my opinion.
I'm not a huge collab kind of a guy, like, except for maybe Tikio Sam, the one guy I would do a collab with.
Okay, well, I'm glad to get the honor to have you. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience who may or may not know you?
Yeah, I'm George Trombley. I've made some textbooks, a bunch of them.
I have one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's been my main thing. I grew up in Japan, Anming. Is that what does everyone just call you here? Just Anming? Is that what they go with?
If it's Sam, he calls me now based Alyssa, but you can call me Anming or Alyssa.
All right. My daughter's name is Adisa, by the way.
Oh, wow. It's so close.
But yeah, so I went to Japan when I was 12. My dad was a computer contractor with the military. His company was, at least. And I didn't, go with the plan to study Japanese. But it turns out if you want to date Japanese girls, you have to pick up the language. And that was what was available. So I learned it. I, like you, started super late with Chinese. That's my latest language that I kind of made more inroads in than other languages. And my Korean was much later too. I'm trying to remember, that's like maybe 12 years ago I started Korean.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, I have a question for you though. Don't you think that Korean, Japanese, and Chinese are like the trifecta of languages to learn? Like if you're gonna learn 3 languages back to back, it's those 3 languages because of the connections of kanji.
In my opinion, yeah. I don't know if people in my channel have noticed that I only study languages with kanji, and I put it out there that I'm also doing Vietnamese after this. Probably. It is kanji based.
Yeah, 30%. Even now, I guess people don't really understand that Vietnamese doesn't have kanji, and really Korean doesn't, like it used to.
Anymore.
But if you know it, oh my God, do you do this thing where you magically pull Korean words out of it? Like, oh wait, that in Japanese is this. So with this kanji reading, it's probably this. You can get so close, if not exactly dead on, with a Korean word.
Yes, you can guess it for sure. Sam is calling you based George now.
Oh no! If I only knew what based meant, I'd be good.
Different generation.
Yeah. Oh my God!
I would love to hear you speak Vietnamese. I know so little right now. That's on the back burner, but Doi hiểu một ít tiếng Việt. That's about.
I remember one Vietnamese word. It's like Nguy is person.
Nguy, yeah. Nguy mi is American person.
Em toi something. I am something, right?
Oh, you've already go. Oh, doi is I, yeah.
Em doi. Oh,
you almost went out of my knowledge of the language. It's that shallow.
I took one lesson on italki. And that was like a year and a half ago, and I literally didn't go any further than that for some reason. But it's got 7 tones, so.
How do you say legend in Japanese? Shinwa, but I don't think they use it in the same way that we would use it in American slang.
Yeah, but if you ask Alexa anything about Japanese, she'll say legendo.
Legendo.
Or you're like, hey, what's this in Japanese? It gives you the exact katakana word of it.
How many languages does George speak?
So my claim would be Japanese and Korean. I feel really comfortable with my Korean. My Chinese, baby. But when right in like 2020, I had this like, I don't know what it's to call it, like a sandwich trip set up. I went to Japan for like, I had a 2-month ticket to Japan, right? And then in that trip, I had a trip to Korea. And then I was finally going to go to Yunnan was where I was going to go.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something, cloud something, but some prefecture named Yunnan. And I had a friend there, but Corona hit. So as I was there, they started canceling all the trips to China. I was like, oh no. And then they started canceling trips from Japan to America. And I was like, okay, I got to get out of Korea. So then I went back to, I think I got a place in like Kawasaki and just chilled there in my my kakuri there.
I did see that. I saw some of your videos on your second channel, the more vloggy channel. Oh, there's a good word. Densetsu. Densetsu or Shinwa are both legend.
Shimewaza, this guy, have you seen Shimewaza before? This guy is super knowledgeable.
Really?
Yeah, he's been with
Western?
times. Yeah. He worked for like a major Japanese company for the long time. This guy knows so much vocabulary. It's crazy. We used to read news stories and he would be like, listen, he'd give me a whole bunch of new information. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. He's really smart.
He's probably up there to take the kanji kante, the kanji test.
I don't think so.
Kanken.
I think he's way past that, honestly.
Past that? Level 1 is insane.
I sent him a word yesterday. I think it was no kanshi. Have you heard that word?
No kanshi, like no kanshi. No kan is your brainstem. Depth of the brainstem. Yes.
That is one thing, and maybe my pitch accent's completely off. But no kanshi, this particular word is an embalmer. And he figured it out just by me sending it to him.
Really?
Yeah, I came up on something I was doing for my video.
I would have thought going brain dead, like the death of the brainstem. No kanshi. Okay.
Yeah, that's a guess I never would have got immediately. So you're already, your Chinese kanji level has to really help your Japanese level.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kanji, would you say kanji is the key to, like, I've always said this, like, you can get good in Japanese without kanji, but you can't get great without kanji. You just can't.
Speaking wise, I've interviewed native speakers of Japanese that are half that could speak in a perfect accent, and you couldn't tell that they were foreign, but they couldn't read kanji. And I think it really limits them in their job options here in Japan. But I mean, if you were to hear them, you would say, oh, they're good, they're native, but a little bit deeper, and you see that they can't read or write. But you probably wouldn't notice in most contexts. And my stepsister also, actually, I have a stepsister that's half Japanese in same situation.
Is she's in Japan then?
She lives in America right now. Annyeonghaseyo, Nomad Push. Nice to see you in the chat. He's a new friend of mine.
Yeah, you'll make a lot of friends during the live streams, the ones that come in a lot. And then you'll eventually, once you do this, eventually you'll be like, yeah, I don't want to talk to that guy again. There it is.
No kanshi. This no kanshi.
Yeah.
Wow. Now I didn't know embalmer.
Put in the coffin.
Yeah. It makes sense because the kan it's also the same kanji, and
yeah,
she like lao shi the shi. Same as teacher.
Yep, the shu. Lao shi the shu.
How do you memorize so well? For one, I've been working with kanji for 12 years. I had to write my graduation thesis entirely in Chinese. It was 70 pages long. So kanji and reading are my forte. Unfortunately, none of that is going to be helpful for YouTube videos. So it's ironic, but in the real world, it's been helpful. I read about 75 books in Chinese, novels, and some textbooks, and then about 65 or 70 in Japanese. My goal is 100. So I like to read.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I've never been much of a reader, of any language except for like manga when I was younger, when I was in Japan. But Matt called me out on it. He's like, the first thing Matt ever did was say, why would you learn kanji from a guy that doesn't read kanji? And it's not that I don't.
Them's fighting words. Good thing you're friends.
That was my first thing with Matt versus Japan. But he called me out on it, and I thought it was great because he said, "Why would you learn kanji?" Because I had said, "Most すごいめんどくさいんだ" Because when you're, if you're reading a book, when you're learning Japanese, this is the worst thing. You're reading a novel and then a kanji comes up that you don't know. Then you got, before phones where you could point your camera at it and just get it to read it for you, you'd have to like figure out the stroke order, count the strokes. You'd have to open up the dictionary. So it was just something I never got into because it was always a hassle. Even though I read a lot of kanji, it was never like the thing that I put all my energy into. But Matt was like, the amount of words that you learn, he said, you read 20 novels and your vocabulary level goes up a lot. And it's true. Like once I started reading Japanese, once I started actually paying attention to books, it's crazy the words that you learn that stick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. We have a good question. Which of you has spent longer in Japan? I don't know. How long have you actually lived here?
I think it's you. I was there for 9 years, from 12 to 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've actually lived here longer. I've lived in Asia for 12 years, 6 in China and 6 in Japan. So it's split.
So
I 12 years.
I say that I've lived in Korea for like a year and a half on layaway because I'll go over there for like a month, 2 months, and it adds up over time. Eventually, I'll live there 5 years. That's my goal.
That's pretty cool. If I wasn't already married here in Japan to Tommy, who you'll get to meet, I told him he should come say hi and do his aisatsu.
He's really popular too, right? He's done like, you guys have done like cooking things and stuff like that. My understanding is like he's really popular, right?
Tommy?
Yeah, no.
He doesn't cook, but we've done videos together, lots of videos together. He shows up in my videos a lot, and he's doing all of our little Japanese lessons that we have for our supporters on Patreon.
You are so lucky because my wife literally never wants to be on camera. But if you're teaching Japanese, your Japanese wife is like the golden goose. People want to see Japanese people speak. Hey, white guy George here speaking some Japanese for you.
Tommy is awesome. Tommy sweats. Yes, Asians do sweat. We cleared that one up. So I have a couple questions for you, George, too. And then when Tommy comes in, we'll say hi and speak Japanese to him. How do you feel about Duolingo for Japanese? We were asked that in the warm-up.
Okay, I'm going to give you, first of all, this is my caveat to anything I say today, okay? You cannot trust anything that I say about my competition, right? Because I have FromZero.com and I have the textbooks. I'm going to try to give you an unbiased opinion, but I don't know if it's possible because I have like a built-in competitive thing, right? So Duolingo, I have always just said it's a glorified vocabulary, flashcard system. But I think it's more than that now, but I haven't been up there to know. To be
invented by China. I don't think it was invented by China.
I mean, I think what's amazing about Duolingo is that the funding that they have, the amount of money that they have is crazy. And the one thing about Duolingo that I talk about with my own developers is streaks. The one thing you hear about Duolingo is, I got to get up on Duolingo and do my streaks. It's meme level status in the language community. Yeah. And I think that's a strong thing that they do is they keep you going back. Now, will you be able to speak Japanese with just Duolingo? No. But will you be able to speak Japanese with just Japanese from Zero? No. You have got to get out there and talk to people and meet people and have tons of input. And I always fight for output, a lot of output.
Yeah, I have too.
People underestimate the skill. Like you can get really good at listening, you can get really good at speaking, you can get really good at reading, but are you good at listening, formulating the next thing you want to say and saying it while the next person's talking? Almost everyone that even gets JLPT N1 and then finally goes to Japan, they say it. It's the skill they don't have. It's really difficult.
Right, absolutely. And about JLPT1, I mean, I was in a class with a bunch of Chinese people studying Japanese, and they could pretty much all pass JLPT N1 after less than a year of Japanese, but they couldn't speak. They were not functional in the language. So that has its limits. I think it's more meaningful for Western people because the hard part is the kanji. They don't have that foundation.
It's like me when I went to, I was doing an interpreting job in Beijing. So I was there for like a month, right? And I don't know any Chinese, but I was still able to buy a camera at Sam's Club using just kanji and asking questions just like kanji and hoping the word that I had wasn't a katakana word, Please. Yeah. What's the word? What would this be in kanji? And that's what they are. Like it's vocabulary. Vocabulary is super important amongst these three languages, right? And Chinese, with all of their kanji characters, they win. They win.
Jim Ross is a big user of Duolingo, so I know he's going to be interested in this. These live streams keep telling me that I keep finding the hardest way to learn Japanese, causing making life harder is the way I've gone through life.
Can I say something to Jim directly though?
Sure.
And I don't know if Anming agrees or not, but like I think it doesn't matter what system you use, honestly. And that's coming from me that wrote the textbooks. I used the quote, I'm going to just say it. I think one of the shittiest books I could have used to learn Japanese, but I did pretty good. It's do you keep going through with it? Are you only focusing on that one material? No, you should expand to a bunch of different materials. If you're putting enough Japanese into your head, it doesn't matter what order you do it in or how sloppy it is. It's time in. It really is, in the end, most important is time in. And most people quit too early to even know if their methods work.
They do, but one thing I went over in the last stream is you don't need to start off with 4 hours a day because you're consuming beginner material and it's quite tedious. You kind of work your way up to doing more and more time through progressive overload. I talked about this in detail in the last stream, so if you guys want to go back and look at that, you may. But yes, it is all about time, and there's very few people that actually really study the wrong way and seriously waste their time. Most of it comes down to how much are you putting into this every day.
And I know you want to get to your next question, but I also want to say, like, I think the biggest thing that hits Japanese people, because my whole goal as a teacher for me is like, how do I keep them, you know, moving on to book 2 or book 3? How do I get them to not quit? And it's to make them feel like they're making progress. And one of the things that I focus on a lot is letting them know it's going to be sloppy. It is not going to, you're not going to feel good every day. You are going to be depressed some days. Beyond
some days.
Yeah. Like, you know, you'll study all this stuff and then you'll walk into a convenience store and they'll say, "Hi, okaishi wa 500 yen desu." And you're like, what did he just say? And it's like, I know all of those things, but how come I can't understand it? So you just got to be okay with being sucky some days.
Yeah, and making mistakes. Absolutely. To go back to Duolingo, I think the problem with Duolingo is it does give people that feeling of accomplishment without the actual accomplishment. It gives them a dopamine hit. You said the feel good, you know, the streak. They're getting high off the streak like they're playing a video game. And video games also give you the feeling of achievement without actually having any achievement. So it's the language equivalent of a video game. And a lot of people are feeling like they're studying. It's giving you the illusion that you are, and you're not actually making real progress. So you're getting excited without the progress.
That is so. It's like when you get to level 50 in Pokemon Go, did you really accomplish anything? I'm just saying.
No.
You had fun doing it, but I'll have you know, I have done Duolingo for 400 days straight. Just throwing it out there. No, I haven't. I'm just saying.
Okay. What book did George write? George has a Chinese, Japanese, and Korean book. I did his entire series actually in Korean. I know this is your old cover. It's called Japanese from Zero. Cool. And he's got a kanji book as well. I didn't do the Japanese version because you gave this to me a few years ago. I was pretty much done with that. But it did help with the Korean, absolutely. I'll be honest, doing it without a teacher, I opened the book and I found it very hard without instruction and basically, you know, not knowing Hangul yet. But I put it on the shelf and I opened it up again 4 or 5 months later after I had some time with the teacher. And then I'm like, I really like this. It's entertaining. It's funny. It's cheeky. And I ended up doing the whole 3 books.
Wow.
Yeah, I did them all. Like in maybe a month and a half. I just kind of blew through them.
That's the way to go. A lot of people don't get past book 1 of any of the series. Like I can look at the sales numbers and I know it. Like that's where people, if they get to the end of it, they'll do book 2. But I already know people don't get to the end of. I mean, I used to have I don't have it now because I literally scanned all of my books. But I used to have like 300-400 language books that I've never cracked open either. So yes, the biggest thing, like when you're studying, is just do it. You just gotta do it. Whatever the material is, just open it up. Whether if you've got a Duolingo subscription, just do it. But go. I really want to reiterate what you said though. It is that dopamine. They have I think they have over $100 million in funding. They know how to keep you there, right?
Just like a YouTube video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the book available on Amazon? I believe it is.
Yes, it's very popular on Amazon.
Okay. What do you think of people that say books are useless? Why people that say don't use textbooks, or as it's called, traditional language learning methods, traditional, or I think what they're trying to say is the bad way, the outdated way.
Yeah, it's a good question, but again, you can't trust my answer. It's not that it's a book is just a format, right? So does that mean if Duolingo released a book with the same material, would it be better or worse? It'd probably be worse for your dopamine rush, but it would be the same material, right? So for example, FromZero.com is the digital version of our books. It's
Mhm.
the same material, but it's better in the fact that you can like live ask a teacher a question, or you can like do a quiz
Mhm.
or something like that. But I got to tell you, I thought for sure books would be out at this time in my life. Like, I think it was like when I first released the book in like the first version of it, like 1998, I thought maybe I got 5 years with this. But you know,
Mhm.
when Corona hit, first of all, we've always had every year, every month, it's like way, way, way better sales forever. Once I started doing the videos on YouTube, like that was the most amazing promotion for the books. But when Corona hit, oh my
Mhm.
God, I cannot believe. I think if you look at the stats
People
now,
use books.
we're
Yeah.
we're selling more, not we, but not our company,
Mhm.
but as a whole in the world, we sell more books in history now than we probably have sold in the past.
Mm.
People like books. There's no battery. There's a lot of people that exclusively only use books, you know. I,
Yeah.
I'm not really a book guy myself. Like I've scanned all my books into my iPad, honestly.
Yeah,
It's just
I'm
easier.
half and half. I do both. I don't do Kindle, but for learning languages, I use textbooks. I read a lot of novels, obviously, and then I also use the online stuff. But I mean, the same people that say the books are useless also say don't pay for any online courses or any online material. You can get all of that for free. Don't spend $1. You're wasting your
Well,
money.
there's a lot of people that spend their whole time learning the language looking for that magic pill. And if you say you have to read a textbook, that's not magic pill level. You need to have this. If you just do this, your Japanese vocabulary will increase this much percent, or your accent will be pitch perfect, right? Pitch accent.
Mm.
There's always somebody selling a system and people willing to buy into a system. It's like weight loss. Like, what's the best way to lose weight? Is it a pill, or is it like an exercise every day for a
Yep.
sustained period of time?
Well, we got into that in the last live stream, and I talked about it a little bit that in the last 6 months, I see an opening for the next get rich language scheme to come
Yeah.
into the Japanese language learning community. I don't know if you've been watching the videos recently, but there's a huge market for that next get rich scam to come in, the magic pill that's going to save everybody. And I see it being repackaged as the input method. Now, right now, nobody's asking for money, but I could see that changing very quickly. Why?
That's all I've heard it as is the input method has been so pushed for so long.
Yeah. How do you feel about Stephen Krashen? Because whoever he is as a person, I hear the methods being pushed right now, trying to substantiate them by saying, but a guy in the linguistic world, of course, nobody knows any other linguists. A guy in the linguistic
True.
world said it works, maybe, unless
Well,
they misinterpreted what he said. But do you know anything about that?
so my introduction to Crashin is through Matt versus Japan talking about it.
Okay, so then
Um,
maybe keep your skeptical eyes open.
well, I don't. Well, look, let's talk about Matt just for a second because I think Matt's brilliant. I've met Matt, and I met Matt here. First of all, I've dealt with Matt for years, okay, and I was a huge supporter to him on Patreon, even when he was being mean to me.
Okay, so what did he teach you about crashing
So
specifically?
I don't know. I really can't say much about Crash, but I do. I just want to address one thing about Matt. Is Matt is brilliant. I think Matt's problem is that he was super young. He
He's
got
30.
he was I know, but he got his voice recorded by some guy, you know, and then put out there him saying stupid things. You know, me, I'm used to being on live stream. You can go back, you know, how many years have I been on live stream? If I haven't been canceled again, I'm probably not saying anything worth, you know, getting canceled. But Matt got recorded, so. But I think it's brilliant. I just want to one final thing, kudo about Matt. When we were here, I have this list in my phone called "Shit My Wife Has Said to Me," you know, and I always make the joke that I've been married 30 years to the same woman, and she still comes up with new things that I don't know in Japanese, and how is that possible? But the thing is, he knew everything on that list but one word.
Mm.
And I was like, how? He's like, I read a lot. I'm like, that's crazy, right? But a guy like Matt is proof, by the way, that you got to put a lot of time into it. And it doesn't matter what the method is, because Matt's done all of them, for the record. After crashing, I know that he's talked about the input method. And I think the biggest problem I had with Matt versus Japan was that he was saying, don't talk for 6 months. Most people won't last 6 months. They've got to be talking. And you can't try to be perfect in a language, or you will not make it, because perfection's not possible. And I love Dogen as well. Dogen, a genius in what he does. He's got huge YouTube channel, mass respect for him. But my criticism of Dogen is he sounds a little bit robotic sometimes. It seems like, to me, if Dogen is having a conversation, the one thing on his brain is being perfect, and that hurts him in the end, even though he's really good at it. I couldn't do it that way. I just couldn't. I'm so imperfect. And
I've met both those YouTubers. Kevin, or Dogen, in person. I went to Kyushu. I met him like 2 years ago.
From what I've seen.
Yeah, he drove me around. He was really cool. And I did I did 2 videos with Matt, and we did a little debate, and I said the same thing that you just said about the early output.
You know what's crazy about Dogen? This is the craziest big coincidence on earth. I used to do this thing back in, I think in 2012, I was doing live streams. Before you had a live stream thing, I was doing it on a Pal Talk or something like that, and I was streaming to my own website. And we were doing, let me take your English and fix your introductions, or let me take your Japanese and fix your introductions. His current wife, it was the only wife, his wife actually sent one in. It was video 95 in that series. I had it up for the longest time. I took it down. But she's great. She speaks Korean too. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, no, that's cool though. Another question that I have on the list, I find kind of ironic. Why do people get so obsessed with consuming these language learning videos instead of learning languages?
Because you feel like you're making progress. It's the same thing with the Duolingo. And look, this is the first time we've had a sustained conversation. I guarantee you've done the same thing. I've done the same thing. Not for language learning, but for anything. I'm writing a novel, and I can't tell you how many books I've read on how to write a novel. The same material rehashed over and over again. I'm looking for patterns. I'm looking for the same magic pill that everyone looks for in language. It is addicting. How I learned Japanese. They're just looking for. You have a video. Don't you have a video how I learned Japanese too? They do really well.
I did one 4 years ago. I should probably update it because my Japanese has improved a lot since then. But I don't know that one did very well. Actually, it did pretty poorly on my channel because I wasn't telling people what they want to hear. I was telling them what they need to hear. I didn't have a magic pill. I didn't have a sly slogan or little thing I could tie up and say, this is all you have to do. It was a long discussion, and I guess they didn't want to hear it.
They want to be told. It's like politics. You want to be told.
It's like fitness videos on YouTube. It's really what it's like.
It's like me watching David Goggins and feeling like I've ran a marathon. I don't know if you know who that guy is, but he's crazy. He's the top of the top. And you watch him and you're you feel like you've done something. So you live vicariously through the people that have done it. But the reality is, if you want to get good, you have to slog your way through it. It is a grind.
Right. I think a lot of the young guys that watch, and it's mostly men, I know the target audience on YouTube, I know a lot of the viewers are young men in their early 20s. I think they're trying to find an identity and something to follow. And I think that's why they get really wrapped up in the debate. Most of it's in the comments section, not so much between YouTubers. But I did find it ironic that people will debate this endlessly in the comments section and not actually go and do the thing.
Yeah, and they could have
go and study.
They could have learned so much in that time.
Absolutely.
When I was supporting Matt on Patreon, right? Every month, the Patreon would automatically kick me back into the Matt versus Japan server. And I think it's probably better now. I don't know. I haven't been up there. It was absolute hell for me because everyone, it's like challenging the big guy on the street, to a fight. They're like, oh, George, I'll show you that I can be amazing in Japanese without doing anything that you've said. And they're all, and then if you read the chat back in the time when it was Matt versus George, almost, people were like, oh, George is going to be so red pilled. Oh God, that's why I had to stop. Because I said, is there a way to prevent me from getting into your server? And every month people were hitting me up and I hated it.
I don't know. They're just
It's all
trying
young,
to.
and it was super toxic.
They're
Super
trying
toxic.
to. It's a bunch of men trying to size up dicks. I don't know.
100%.
It's kind of yeah.
And look, the reality is there's so many ways to learn. There's not one way to learn, and everyone's kind of got their own thing. If you get into, if pitch accent is your way in and Matt versus Japan keeps you sustained and you go for those few years that you need and you become fluent in Japanese, I'm all for it, man. I want that for you. It's changed my life a lot. Not pitch accent. Japanese.
Okay, you said the dirty word. There were words that weren't supposed to be said. No, I'm just kidding. Here's Jim again.
No pitch accent.
I told you a lot of my audience doesn't know what the hell you're talking about. They're gonna go and look this stuff up, and now you started a whole new thing. Okay, 日本人の友達作ればいいね. Yeah, but a lot of Japanese people won't have patience for you to be friends if they only speak Japanese and you're kind of iffy, but that's where a teacher can help. It's kind of like a paid friend to get you started.
Wait. Exact thing I always say. The teacher on like italki for $15 to $20, or the tutor, they're your paid friend.
Yeah, totally.
So selfish. And you can literally go, I want the cutest girl on earth. I want the most handsome man on earth.
Makes it more interesting.
They don't ask enough questions to me. You can change. Oh my God, yeah. That's the holy grail of language learning.
Yeah, Jim says mix and match. Yeah, absolutely. Find what works for you, what you enjoy. I mean, at the end of it, I'm talking to hobbyists. You're not trying to go to a Japanese university or work here in Japan, or most of you not trying to live here in Japan. You can do whatever the hell you want. You don't have to do it at all. I hear people say this part of Japanese is useless, or this part you don't need. Well, can I be honest? It's all a fucking hobby. It's all kind of useless. I mean, by definition, you don't need it. So to say this part's useless, this part you need, I mean, it's a silly argument. Just do what you enjoy. If you hate kanji, it kills you inside. A piece of you dies every time you're studying kanji. Don't do it, then skip it. But if you really want to focus on your accent and it makes you feel cool or whatever, you think it's cool, focus on it. But at the end of the day, it's all, you could do it or not. For me, my intention with Chinese when I started and now with Japanese is, I mean, I live here, work here, going to school here. I went to university in both countries. So I had to do all this stuff that maybe I didn't want to do, but I know I had to do it and study it to the nth degree. And I'm still learning new words to this day.
Yo, that'll never go away, unfortunately.
Oh, learning new words? Yeah.
I want to say, I want to add to that just a little bit, the whole hobbyist thing. But for me, like Japanese, Korean, any language you learn, it's the only way we as humans can really go to another dimension, like another multi-dimension. Because you go to Japan and you're an American, you see an entire different world. And when you know the language, it's way better. Like my first trip to Korea, the only friends I could make were Koreans that spoke either Japanese or English. And then as I got better, I got those half speaking people. And then eventually I was able to make friends that only speak Korean. And it's so different to have friends that are not dirtied with Western thought is the only thing you know.
Dirtied. I know exactly what you're talking about. So yeah. You miss so much losing kanji. Yeah. Well, I mean, some people just want to learn Japanese to watch their favorite anime without subtitles, and that's fine. And what I find ironic is those are the people that also obsess about the accent as beginners. I'm like, you're just trying to watch anime. You don't even have to know how to speak at all. I think they just they think it sounds cool, or the idea is cool.
There are so many more things you need to focus on than accent in the beginning, because Japanese is easy. It's not bad. It's a, I, u, e, o, right? Kakiku, keko.
The phonetics, yeah.
You got to focus more on like, when do you have a double consonant? When do you lengthen? When's the onyomi? When's the kunyomi? There's so many more things. Just remember even the words alone. And people are sitting. This is always my problem with the pitch accent. Started bringing it up again, but it's like on trying to be perfect when you can't string sentences together.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And I've heard you talk about this. And that's one reason that I invited you today because, one, I think that your channel is really underrated, seriously underrated. And all the people that are consuming this content about methods of learning Japanese, I always find it ironic they don't go to your channel where you're actually teaching
See,
it for
I've
free.
accepted it. I've accepted it that there's only a small percentage of people that are going to click on a video that's called Japanese from Zero, video 145, kutte.
Mm.
Like, who's going to right, on how to
Peop-
use kutte? They don't even know what it is because
Exactly.
they're so focused on how can I learn Japanese in 3 months and be fluent by
Right.
sleeping to an anime.
我喜欢巧克力. I'm very glad you like 巧克力. I love the random comments.
Is that a person? 巧克力. 我喜欢-
巧克力, the pictures next to it. I like chocolate. 巧克力,我喜欢巧克力.
Oh, I didn't know that word in Chinese.
巧克力.
不知道，不知道了。
没关系. What is his channel called? George is from the Learn Japanese from Zero channel. And we're talking about languages so much, I feel like we should speak in it a little bit. I'm going to call Tommy down. Come here.
Gotta get my Japanese hat on. I don't have a Japanese
I'm
hat.
sure that's not hard for you. I mean, how many years has it been? You could probably
okay, so
speak Japanese in your sleep.
When I went to Japan when I was 12,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been married to my wife now for 30 years almost.
But
So-
she speaks English. Do you speak it
No,
you're in
doesn't
America?
speak English.
I didn't know that.
That's the crazy thing.
Really?
I've been in this country so long.
Because Dogen's wife speaks English and they speak
fluent.
English in the house, which
No,
was
Dogen's
surprising
wife
to
is
me.
language genius. Like, she's Korean, Japanese, English. She's amazing.
Okay.
But my wife never, like, I met my wife when she was already after 30. I was like 22 when I met her. So she's older than me. She had no interest in English at all. And she still doesn't, you know? So, yeah.
Even living in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Tommy is really trying to learn English right now for his MBA. In fact, he's studying upstairs. I'm calling him.
Yeah.
Congrats, 30 years. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. 30 years of Japanese.
My wife's amazing. She's like, without her, I'm trash. I'm not a good human being without her.
Aww.
Yeah, amazing.
That's so
How long
sweet.
have you been married?
I've been married for 2 years now.
Oh my gosh, you're a baby marriage.
I know.
If you can hold it together for 30 years, it's even better than those first 2 years where you think it's the greatest. It gets better because you know somebody your entire life, you know, and they know everything about you.
That's pretty cool. 30 years. Yeah, definitely my dai senpai on many fronts. That's pretty amazing. So I know my Korean's iffy, but I would like to talk to you in Korean a little bit before Tommy comes. He doesn't understand Korean. Maybe doing, I don't know, a little back and forth. Because you
예, 어렵다 지금은.
어렵다.
어렵다.
어려워요. 괜찮아요? 조금만.
괜찮아요.
All right, I gotta switch my brain here. 조금만 이야기하고 싶은데
근데
괜찮아요?
괜찮아요.
한국어로.
한국어로 얘기하자.
조지 씨가 언제부터 한국어 공부하고 있어요?
아마 10년 이상.
10년? 아예 10년 전에부터.
그래요. 근데
그렇구나.
제가 매년 한국에 가서 갈 때마다 제가 학원을 다니고 있었어요.
아, 한국어 학원.
2개월
맞아요.
그 공부했었어요.
한국 사람 같이 공부했어요? 선생님은 한국 사람이에요?
수업에는 외국인밖에 없어요. 하지만 친구가 많이 있어요. 한국 사람 친구. 혹시
네.
한국 사람 친구, 일본 친구보다 많아요.
오, 그렇구나. 재밌어요.
왜냐하면
반대로 저는 일본 사람 친구가 한국 사람 친구보다 많아요. 많아요.
그렇죠.
네.
일본에
살아니까요. 정답이에요.
네, 제가 그 언어 교환 모임에 거의 매일 갔었으니까 진짜 친구가 많아요.
좋아요. 성격 좋으니까 친구가 많아요. 네.
성격 좋은지 모르겠지만.
네. 한국어 잘 하시네요.
아니요.
너무 부럽다. 아야. 아니야. 진짜, 네. 진짜,
제가
Tommy is seriously looking at me right now, and it's creeping me out. Tommy,
Well, the thing is, he wants to learn Korean in a year as a Japanese person. He already knows.
what the?
もうね
なんだこれ。さっき韓国語の会話だった。あ、大丈夫、大丈夫。はい、はい、どうぞ、どうぞ。ひろゆきくん、入って、入ってきて。はい、ジョージさんだ。Those are definitely sounds, they said. Yes, they're sounds of something. I got so distracted. He was hiding behind the fridge, waiting to talk. はい。
ジョージです。お願いします。
ちょっと見えないから、ちょっと。
はいはい。
ここに座ってくれ。はい。今大丈夫。はい。ハロウィン仮装してる。
練習してた。
英語の練習それとも仮装の練習
仮装の練習してね。じゃあ、勉強しながらハロウィン仮装切ってる。それだけだ。いつも通り。
セリフかなんかあるんですか
ちょっと聞こえないね。ごめん。I forgot. He can't hear you because I didn't give him the... Tommy the European.
はじめまして。
はい。
今聞こえる。ごめん。間違えた。
全然聞こえなかったから。
なるほど。
ずいぶん楽しそうな旦那だなと思って見てます。
そうなんですよ。もうすぐハロウィンなんで。
そうか。ハロウィンか。そっか。もう何年も仮装してないから、私は。
まあ、大丈夫。いや、いらないんじゃないアメリカには子供っぽい祭りになっちゃった。で、逆に、日本の特に渋谷とか六本木とか新宿のハロウィンはね、大人が多い。ほぼ全員大人だ。子供がなかなか来られなくて。
日本に住んでた頃は、ハロウィンなんて誰も意識してなかったのね。子供たちが、私たちが米軍基地の近くだったから、結構もう来てキャンディーをもらいに来ようとしてたんだけども、曜日がいつも間違ってたの。日付間違えてて、1週間ずっと毎日来て、トリックオトリートとか言いに来てたんだけども、今はすごいみんな分かってるよね、日本人、ちゃんと。ハロ
ウィン。そうね、有名になった。
やっぱりインターネットのおかげですかね。
かなニュースの
インターネット
ニュースのおかげって多分ちょっとイメージが悪いかもしれない。渋谷のハロウィンのせいで。そう、確かに日本にはイメージが良くないでしょ。
そうね。
若者がやることみんなはやがるでしょう。
おじいさん、
じゃあ、ひろゆきは38歳だから、いや、若者だけじゃなくて、おっちゃんも入ってる。
お兄さんです。
しっかりお兄さんだよ。
わかります。
おっさんだけど。
I'm glad that people in the comments section can understand. They're probably like, what the fudge are you guys talking about? For the last 10 minutes. 多分、視聴者は聞き取れないと思う。わかんないけど、日本語を話せる方が入ってる。
そうですね。
わかる人もいるでしょうね。締め技。
いる。でも、多分、少ないかもしれない。わかんない。OK、ナルトトミー、you just want to say hi?
はい。
あと、ジョージさんに何か質問あるの？
いや、なんか、さっきめちゃくちゃ日本語。
そう。30年前から日本語勉強してる。勉強してる。で、あと日本人女性と結婚してる。
だから。
30年間。ほぼ30年。
じゃあもっと12歳から日本語わかる。
すごい。
12歳の時は分からなかったけどね。12歳の時に日本に来て、もう、日本人の女の子が可愛いからもう勉強するしかないっていう。
いいんじゃない？
いいじゃないですか、別に。
はい。青森だったし。
青森に住んでた。青森、三沢の基地？
三沢基地の、そこに住んでたんだけども、もう、で、当時はもうインターネットとかそういうのなかったから、もう日本語を勉強するしかないっていう。
まあ、英語を喋れる人がいないからね。仕事のための服ですか？Tommy, are you wearing your work clothes right now?
Sure.
He's a professional cosplayer.
Oh my gosh, always streams comes to my stream too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen that person as well.
Well, we're double streaming, so they might come from yours. 今日は素敵ですね。
ありがとうございます。
Okay.
Wearing, it's pretty hentai.
Well, you'll see this on Tommy, and then I'm going to be a character from Naruto as well.
Wait, what? No, you know what you just did? You're like, you'll see this on Tommy. And I was like, wait, is he going to be wearing your shirt?
He's going to be wearing There's nothing under here.
Nothing.
That's the big secret. It's getting hot in here. Oh my gosh, that's okay, Tommy.
Okay.
We're gonna get demonetized on this stream if we go any further.
Or super monetized.
じゃあ、ありがとうございましたね。
はいありがとうございました
お疲れ様でした。
どうも
よろしくお願いします。
はい。
はーい。
Okay, it is now 12:30, so forgive
know why you
me.
married him.
You know why I married him. Yeah, for
He's
the
a great guy.
yeah, he's fun, isn't he? I can't believe he did that. That's why he took so long to come down here. When we were speaking Korean, I'm so sorry. I was like looking at him and then looking back and then
No, your Koreans come really far in just 2 years. It's crazy good.
oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
그래요?
아니라고 생각해요.
Isn't it?
너무 퇴화지지 마세요.
The thing about Korean, right, is in the beginning, like it's so similar to Japanese. Like there's so many like similar points that do you ever find yourself getting angry when it's not? You're like, what?
Yes.
Why is it not the same way?
Yeah, definitely. Because there's so many words like kaban is the same, sagi is the same. And I know you're still Mandarin is newer for you, but then you'll find the words that are the same as Mandarin, like exactly the same or
Like
almost exactly. It's like double.
Pyogam surprised me a lot when I started learning Chinese, and I found pyogam, which means ugly, buhaokang, right? In Chinese, I was like, what?
I haven't even learned. I only know 못생긴, 잘생겼어요, and 못생긴. So good looking and bad looking.
Yeah, like you didn't form well. 못생겼어.
못생겼어요. I
form. You didn't
because you're my senpai. I'm
I
trying to
went
be
through
nice.
like level 6 in Hagwon. I was like jumping through. I would go there and I would do like a private class in the morning, and I would do the group class in the afternoon or reverse, depending on. And then I actually took some Chinese classes in Korea from an old Korean man who didn't speak any English. That was fun. And he'd be like, oh, what? He was speaking about like I don't know, no, not what that was Japanese. Oh my god.
Urinara.
우리나라에서는, and I'm like, wait, does he mean China? Yeah. It was so challenging to learn. Like that type of laddering is super fun. Like once you learn Japanese, like all of my language books about other languages are in Japanese, and a lot of it's so fun.
I would love to speak more Korean with you. I barely get to use it. 너무 안타깝지만 지금까지 한국어 동영상 만들기 할 수 없어요. 기회 없으니까 예를 들면 제가 아삭사에 가면 한국 사람만 있어죠. 근데 이야기할 수 없어요.
코리아타운 같은 장소에
신호국어 있으지만 한국 사람 별로 없어요.
진짜.
솔직히 말하면 여러분 아마도 외국 사람하고 소영 사람, 미국 사람, 그리고 호주 사람, 일본 사람도 만나요.
한국 사람 아니고.
네, 어쩔 수 없어요.
그 아이토키 같은 수업을 해요?
예, 아이토키 아니지만 학원에서 공부하고 있어요.
일본에서?
일본에서 네 맞아요. 만나요. 진짜 많이 있어요. 네. 우리 학원은 우에노역 앞에서 있고 일주 동안 한 번 아마도 한 달 4번 가고 있어요.
매달은 못 가요?
매달.
매달 아니고 미안해.
네, 한 달 아마도 3번 정도.
매일 갈 수 있어요?
매일? 네, 매일 갈 수 있어요. 맞아요.
What was I saying just now? 맨날 is what? Is that Japanese?
맨날 is every day, but I said
I never say 맨날.
Or really, 맨날 is every day.
Why did 맨날 come out for me? I don't know.
That's a normal word. It's just 마이니치. Yeah, I never use it. I said 매달 every month, so you must have thought May.
No, I said 매달 thinking it was every day for a minute, and then I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right. And then it somehow switched over to 맨날, but I'm like, how do you 맨날? Like I usually 맨종싱. You ever heard that? Like that kind of word? I don't know. I never used 맨날. It was weird how it came out randomly.
That's
No,
all
no,
right. I don't
no,
think that my Korean is up to par at 12:30 at night, but it was cool to have the chance
no,
to talk to someone that actually speaks.
you're good. And when have you been to Korea yet?
Yeah, 2 times I did a
Okay.
homestay. I so wish that I could I made a video about it, but that was last year. I really made a lot of improvements since then, and I don't even have the chance to make videos. It's like I put 2.5 years into this, and I have barely made any videos. Well, I talked to my Korean teachers for 2 hours. Like, what I just did
I'm
wasn't
so
very good, but
I'm so jealous because like you can still like pull off the homestay thing. I'm 52. I can't be like, I'd like to stay in your house and cool.
they
You know what I
might
did
let you
do,
might
though?
get away with it.
You know what I did do? My first trip to Korea, I had this joke that
Mm,
I was going to meet K-pop stars in Korea, and I had this saksen to do it. I was
mm,
going to go to K-pop dance class and meet them before they became famous.
mm.
And I was saying that as a joke, and then I just did it. And I was going to K-pop dance class, and trust me, I can't dance. My God, is dancing hard. But I learned Korean doing it because it was all in Korean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't
Choreography,
want to.
Can you
I
dance?
wouldn't want to do that. No, and I can't do norebang either. The
Oh,
karaoke.
no,
No,
norebang is my life. You can't do norebang?
I haven't tried it yet. But to be honest, I don't have a good voice.
No, you
나는 당신을 사랑해요. Well, at least somebody loves us. That's good to know.
열심히 연습하면 잘 할
Mm.
수 있게 돼요. You could totally do it.
Yeah, if I study really hard, perhaps I'm gonna have to work on that. I don't even do karaoke in Japanese or
Dude,
Chinese. I don't sing.
I have a TJ Media machine here, which is like the official karaoke company, and I always upgrade the machine. So if I go to Korea, I'm literally stepping down to do Korea and to do
Mm.
norebang in Korea because they have the older machines, and I'm like, I gotta deal with the older machine. I love karaoke.
We got a super chat. Hajimemashite. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Watashi wa wow, this is all written in Romaji. Watashi wa Darmi desu. I'm going to be going to a Nihon festival today in NYC. They have it every weekend. It's been good. Thank you.
Every
That's awesome.
weekend?
Enjoy that. That's kind of cool.
They
Getting
have it
into
every
the culture.
weekend?
That I wish I had that in
That's
Michigan. They don't
amazing.
have anything like that.
They did the Japan Festival here like once every year. I think I was like the host of it like a billion years ago. But every
Mm.
weekend sounds totally fun.
Well, we do have Japanese people watching. 日本人ですが聞かせていただいてます. Well, that's good. I'm glad there's some Japanese people. We got any Chinese people here? Then I'm really going to put George on the spot in a not
Oh,
nice way because he told me
oh.
before this that Korean is much stronger, and obviously his Japanese is, I mean, over 30 years.
I'm really sad about my Chinese because I think if I had went to Yunnan and actually met my friend and actually had like live conversation, it would have switched everything. But the whole Corona thing, just like and how the China response happened with Corona, it like killed my soul. And I was like, no. But I still have that one friend, and every now and then she'll text me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I gotta learn Chinese more. I can text her pretty good, but
Okay.
let me think.
自我介绍。
说的时候，我是要我的练习很多，可是我没有时间，我没有朋友。
没有朋友，太可怜了。说得很好，说得没错。
只是有一个人。
现在你一个人学习中文，那就太难了。但是你中文和你日文和韩文讲得这么好，学中文就小菜一碟吧。That was mean. I said a kotowaza. That was mean.
My Chinese friend was like, "I'm going to teach you all the kotowazas." I'm like, "No, you're not. I'm not learning yet. I'm not at that level."
That's what makes the kanken so hard is the yoji jukugo and the kotowaza. But I learned enough in Chinese, and then I'm like, I never use them. So when I got into Japanese, I was like, okay, I already been through this once. That didn't work out. I'm not putting a lot of time into this. So if I really did take that, I got to really get on my yoji jukugo.
I've done the first two, like 10 and 9, like a million years ago.
Oh, that would be easy because of my kanji background. But no, I've never taken it. But if I were to take it right now, I'm reviewing the 3 books and working my way up to number 2. They have Junni, and yeah, it's really hard. And I self-grade, but the only ones I really struggle on are the Yoji Jukugo. Well,
I know
all of us in the chat wishing we could speak languages better, Asian languages. Well, you keep saying you're not doing well. I mean, I'm doing my best at 12:30, but
Well, don't sell yourself short. I mean, you are an amazing inspiration to a lot of people.
I appreciate that.
Because you look like them, right? Like I look like them. Some people you look like some, and they look and go, oh my God, I could do that. That's the number one thing you need, I think, when you're learning too, is like that motivation. Someone to let you know it's okay, you'll be okay. You know, and you do that.
I feel like, well, the YouTube videos are just for entertainment. It's the tip of the iceberg. A lot of the stuff that really, the hard work that went into learning the languages, it can't be shown on YouTube, and I don't want to bore people to death.
There was an ad I saw in a magazine a long time ago. It was like an HP ad, and it was like, your company boils down to you all alone at night in front of your computer. And I'm like, yeah, that is what it is. Like when you, like even you on, like, let's talk about YouTube for a second. The way you build your YouTube channel, that's a lot of stuff, you alone putting thought into it. It's the same thing with language. It's lonely in the end. And you have these key moments that make it so worth doing it, you know? And for me, like when I go to Korea, I'm not learning Korea to learn Korean. I have like 4 to 5 key friends that I love so much. I learn for those people. And it only takes one really great friend to make you want to push harder on a language.
That's pretty cool. Or a boyfriend, girlfriend. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, if I wasn't married already,
Korea. Yeah. I mean, you could expand your knowledge even more. Yeah, I know, right?
My giserengai, like my manufactured love, like
your pseudo love.
Girlfriends. You know, we do dinner, we do karaoke, but there's no love. It's all fake. And I'm always like talking to my wife. It's so cute.
We're speaking the manga language here. Yes, we are.
Oriental.
Yeah, that's where my channel name came from, actually, from China when I lived there. I didn't set out to be a Japan vlogger. It just kind of fell upon me. And now the name doesn't make sense. But it was named after the Oriental Pearl Tower in Shanghai. And enough people have criticized me about the name that I just got to keep it forever out of spite. Well, so I'm never changing it.
if 1 out of every 100 comments is good, that's good engagement. If everyone is like, why is it Oriental? If you were ornamental, that'd be even worse.
Ornamental. That sounds ridiculous. Well, we're going to Shanghai next month, so I'm gonna do a little video there in front of the Pearl Tower and just say, by the way, you know, if you don't like the name, go tell China to change it. I'm sure they'll react very well to that.
Well, you know, the airlines that I first went to Japan was called Northwest Orient. So that's not a bad word to say Oriental. It's the Orient. It's just older.
It's quite common here in Japan. Lots of shops named Oriental Footwear, things like that. Oh, my friend, he's a YouTuber too from India. Hey, Anming, BNS from India. Yeah, he's in my Discord all the time. George should get in there. I'll send you an invite to the private Discord. Exclusive group. Can't wait to see you and Tommy in India soon. Tommy has been to India, but I would love to go there with Tommy someday and travel around with him. He can show me around. You can show me around. That'd be fun. I've been to about 25 different countries, but nothing new in the last few years because of Corona. And I was just focusing on going to all the prefectures in Japan, which I did last year. And that was cool.
Oh my God. That's one of those like video things. I was thinking one of these days, I'll do the go to every prefecture.
Yeah.
The last trip I was like, I'm going to walk the Yamanote line. Then I was like, oh, everyone's done it.
Oh gosh, my friend did both those videos. Yeah. And he ended up going to all 47 prefectures, made a video, and nobody really cared. No, I don't know him. It's a smaller YouTuber.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not in the cool group.
I do have like a channel that I did called Adventures in Asia, where it was just me and my cameraman going all over Japan. Super fun, but man, did it not make money. I have like 19,000 subscribers, and it was like I was spending like 10K a trip to make like $400 a month. It's easier when you live there, though. If I lived there, I'd keep that channel going.
Absolutely. I wanted to do a lot more China content this year, and we will be and do more with Korea because I spent all this time on Korean.
Outside of Korea, Chinese and Japanese, and obviously you already started, you're considering Vietnamese. Out of all the countries you went to, what's the one that you think I would probably like to learn that language next?
Aside from the ones I just said, Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, Korean, and Japanese, and Vietnamese, is there anything left? Yeah. Dude, I don't think I can, because everyone has their own intentions, right? I like to learn to the advanced level. I don't want to dabble here and there. So when I take something on, then I want to go as far with the language as I can. It already took me the better part. It took me the better part of 4 years to get my Japanese on par with Chinese, more or less. And I think it's going to take the better part of maybe 3 more years to do that with Korean. So I'm not jumping to dabble in a bunch of stuff. Like I can't do anything after Vietnamese. Like that's got to be my cutoff, for crying out loud.
Well, at least you know your limit. At least you know what you want.
Yeah. Oh, Thai. I like to study stuff to the nth degree. I'm not really a casual language learner. It's not even just a hobby. It's now part of my work. So no more, please. Gosh, no more.
Facebook, right? Those are the worst.
Yeah.
Facebooks.
Exactly. And that's fine. Everybody has their own goals, like I said, with the hobbyists, and that's totally fine. If people just want to learn a little bit of everything. What I made a video about a couple of years ago is, and then even more recently, I did a review of someone's video about the fake polyglot thing. And I had a lot of comments. Yeah, I had a lot of comments that said, so-and-so, and I'm commenting on a reaction video, but so-and-so never said they were fluent. Well, the title says perfect something. So if that's not saying you're fluent, then what? Of course that's claiming fluency, even if you downplay it in the videos.
The best video I ever had on the Adventures in Asia channel was when I faked a Xiaoma video. Like we had this cut footage. We did this video called Festival Fury, where we went to like 5 festivals in 5 days. And then my cameraman / editor, Mike, was like, I probably could put together something like the Xiaoma thing. You just got to give me an intro. So I made the intro. That's almost got 1 million views on that channel. Perfect. A white man speaks perfect Japanese and rare dialect. People want that. But
yeah, they do.
I'm not perfect in Japanese. And then I have a ramen when a white guy orders ramen in perfect Japanese. That also has like 300,000 views for me on Japanese Zero, which is pretty good for me. People love
it's entertaining. I found your channel through that, actually. 요즘 한국어를 어떻게 공부해요? That's a good question. Yeah, that is how I found your channel. I wrote a comment like, why are you calling yourself stupid? And you're like, I'm doing it as a social experiment. Yeah, that's funny. That was a few years ago. So how are you studying Korean recently now?
Recently, the only thing I do for Korean is there's this the most common thing, there's one YouTuber that I watch called Diva Jessica. Mm-hmm. She's so good. If you haven't heard of, do you know Diva Jessica? She does like true crime in Korean. And it's a lot of Japanese stuff, Korea stuff. It's so good. Look her up. She's amazing. Okay. And then there's a radio show called from NBC called 2시에 데이트, 2 o'clock date. Mm. And they always change out, like every year or so they get a new host. So some years it's not as good. But you can get that on like any like podcast app, and just that's my input. I've learned so much. Just you've got to do input because your brain uses that raw material to build models for things it doesn't understand. And then when you study and hear that thing and you learn it, you're like, oh, here's all the models I built. Here's how I attach those to that models. I did it with Chinese too. There was one called, I think it's called Tang Sang Nyo. No. I might be mixing Japanese and Korean, and Garlic Girls, and they were like very Beijing-y style.
大蒜鱼.
Yeah, I think that was their name. But they were like, that was when I learned, like, what was it? What does it do?
Yeah.
But I would listen to that, not knowing any Chinese, and you just go, oh, okay, I hear this thing over and over again. Now I can ask about it, and I can look it up, and then you start building these models. That's what I do.
You said Tansan, and I thought of Tansan Sui.
You made a
big drink. Tansansu. Oh, tansansu in Korean. Well, George taught me a new word.
Yep, tansansu.
Okay, so close. Somebody said you're still young. Watch, you'll be the next Steve Kaufman. Me or George? Hey, I mean, Steve is almost 80, so we're both quite young.
Because I was thinking the same thing when you said I wasn't going to do any more languages, and I was thinking you could be, because I did an interview. Have you interviewed Kaufman? He's a great guy.
I've talked to him back and forth, but we haven't done a video together. Nope.
Yeah. He'll cut you off though. We did like a pretty long video, like an hour, and then on his channel, we were just getting started, and I was still being like all like polite. It was supposed to be an interview with me, and we'd do a little bit polite, and all of a sudden it was over. I was like, oh shit. I missed the chance to actually to talk to him because I was like still the intro stage, you know. He's a good guy.
Oh, well, I don't want to do that to you today. I said an hour, but we could talk as long as you
Oh,
want. And there is
we'll go
one
back.
really important question too
Yes.
that I have for you on the list as well.
Okay, let's do it.
It's about what you were just getting at, the input versus output. I mean, it's obvious that if you don't know anything, you can't output anything. You need input first, even if it's just shadowing before you're able to repeat anything. But what are you on that side of the debate? Because all the videos out right now are just input, input, input. And I think there's a huge market for that because you're talking to introverts. You're talking to people that are watching YouTube videos that are probably not the people outside. And that appeals to them. And that's what they want to hear, especially that they can skip the steps of making mistakes and just come out sounding perfectly from listening alone. So what do you have to say about that?
Here's my example of why input alone hasn't worked for you. We all learned how to drive, right? You watched your parents drive 16 years or more. You watched your sisters learn how to drive. You might have even helped them pass the test. But when you first got in that car,
Hi, Scott.
you know that when you turn, you got to let go of the wheel on the way back so that it, comes back. Do you know how to, if you're in a car that it's manual, did you understand how the clutch works? You knew none of that. Do you know how the car feels? Do you know how it accelerates? Do you know how it brakes? You know none of that. So you can study until you're blue in the face. You can watch How to Be Perfect in Japanese, how I learned Japanese in 2 days by watching anime on my iPod. You're not going to get there unless you're outputting a lot. And then that's like driving. And if you watch any honest YouTuber that learned Japanese fluently, they will all tell you, I thought I knew a lot until I got to Japan and actually had a conversation. The very first conversation destroys their soul because they haven't done it. I was a little bit hyperbole with the destroys their soul, but it sucks to like study that much and think you're good. Because I had that same thing. The first video I made in Korea was like a Japanese daily number 25. I think it was called Language Depression. Because I thought I was okay in Korean, but I wasn't okay in Korean because I had never had live conversations.
Mobek is here. Mobek is a guy who's studying in Argentina 4 hours a day Japanese right now. He's getting ready for N2. He's really it motivates me to study more. Glad to see you here, my friend. You never miss a live stream. George is talking about the stuff I think you want to hear. Mobek is, I don't want to call him an ex-eject guy or ex, but I do have a lot of guys. I don't know. They came and flocked to my channel. Some of the refold guys or ex-eject guys.
Can I tell you the thing that scares? Can I tell you the thing that scares me about humans though? Is the eject people aren't wrong. The pitch accent people aren't wrong. You're not wrong. I'm not wrong. There is no like pure right. There's no pure correct. It's like is being Democrat wrong? Is being Republican wrong? No, it's just two different things, but they both can reach a goal. So there's no right or wrong. You do what you want to do. My opinion is you gotta output because that's what I did, and that's really the only thing I know. I can't go back and test the theory. Would I be better if I did input only? But who's to say? Why couldn't you do output and input and then go, you know what? I'm going to take those 6 months and I'm going to do it right now. What would stop you from doing that then? Because every time I input on Japanese, I hear a new word and I go, oh, that's good. Let me throw that in the brain. You know what I don't do? I don't write notes. I hear the word 3 or 4 times and then I use it.
That's pretty cool. One thing about that is, everybody's right in their own way, but there are faster methods. And I have to get these languages solid in as little time as possible. So I'm looking for the fastest method. And if it saves me time to hire a teacher rather than looking for friends, if it saves me time to pay for a online course that has everything all laid out rather than go looking for it on Discord or Anki, then that saves me a lot of time and that's faster. Can
I add to that?
Sure.
Because you just reminded me of the best answer about why a textbook would be good. Who wrote this textbook, right? So George Trombley, Yukari, my wife, and Kanako, right? My teacher from Japan. But this book has 20 plus years. I've been speaking Japanese now for 40 years. This is revision 8 that just came out like last year. So if you want a real magic pill, talk to a guy or a person who put their whole life into finding ways to teach Japanese in a way that's effective, right? Versus someone on a Reddit thread who just started has Dunning-Kruger effect where they think they're good and they don't know they don't know where you're going to fail. You know where people are going to fail because you literally have failed in those spots. You would actually be an actually excellent Japanese teacher, probably better than a native Japanese speaker.
I have taught Japanese. I taught Japanese to Americans. Suggestions on how to do self-learning with lots of access to input, get better access to output scenarios. Okay, well, I just brought up the shadowing, and I have a Reddit now, so I posted some resources there. I'll put this in the chat here. You can go join my Reddit. I'm updating that daily with different series that you can follow. I put the shadowing books up there really recently, and those are for people that are like bare beginner, don't know how to say anything in Japanese all the way up into like pre-intermediate. And I think that's a good way to start, because obviously if you can't speak, you don't know what to say, you can't start with output, which is much more difficult and mentally taxing until you know how to say something. So, but what I hear a lot, and I'm going to get to the super chats in a second, is that I don't know that this is really entirely Steve Crescen's the right interpretation of what he said. I'm going to talk to a linguist actually for the next collab. We're going to go through this because he knows a lot more about academia and linguistics than I do. But the idea that you can be like a child and just absorb the language through listening, that's not actually how children learn, is it? They have their parents, they're constantly opening their mouths and talking and making mistakes. They have language exchange partners by them 24 hours a day.
So I'm on TikTok,
correcting their speech.
One of the things the algorithm shows me is babies, because I like cats, I like babies. They're so dang cute. And when you watch the ones where like the mom's going, mama, and the baby's like, she's like, mama. And the baby finally goes, mama. That's what you get as a baby. And I think there was a study that said you can't get, for example, perfect accent after I think it was either age 8 or age 12. I can't remember which one it was, because that part of the brain is kind of shut down. Right. So you're learning in a whole different area of the brain. And that's the thing that I've always had the problem with immersion, full immersion as a way of learning. The problem with full immersion as learning is, imagine you know how to drive a car. And now they're like, okay, we're going to teach you how to drive an 18-wheeler, but I want you to forget everything you know about driving a car. We're going to remove the driving a car from your brain. You're just going to drive the truck now. No.
When you say full immersion, do you mean like a full immersion classroom where the teacher is only teaching you in Japanese and not using English? Is that what you mean?
I should probably figure out what I meant by full immersion. When I think of full immersion, maybe I've misrepresented him all my life, and maybe this is where my biases come in. But when I think of full immersion, I always think of the person who says, I'm not going to study, I'm just going to go, and if I'm in the country, I'll figure it out. You know? And my thought on that is always, when I think about, when I look at Korean, or when I look at, even when I'm reading a Japanese textbook,
that sounds like more like just going and using native material from the start. Is that?
Yeah, I just don't know how you do it. Have you ever seen those English videos? The whole video is in English. In English, we have singular pronouns. Like, how are they?
Oh, teaching grammar. Yeah.
How do you learn that way? I don't know.
Well, that's rather ineffective.
You should have materials in the programming that your brain's already in, right? Again, you can't trust what I'm saying because I'm literally hawking textbooks, right? But even if it's Genki, even if it's any other textbook, you have something that guides you to a point to where you can get your first output literally after one day of learning, kore wa nan desu ka? Then someone will say to you, inu desu. You now just learned your first word in Japanese only with output. You know?
Right. And one thing the last thing about the children analogy that I think is important to bring up is children can understand a lot of language and they can't speak it well, especially we're talking about 2-3 years old. And they need to be corrected over time. And as do adults, you can't expect yourself you might understand it, but reproducing that and having your active vocabulary active in your memory that you can retrieve on the spot is not going to come just through listening. It's going to come through first hearing it and then using it the right way. And that's
who can say spaghetti when they're a kid, they say baschetti. Right?
Yeah, it's very cute. And they get corrected.
They get corrected and they get, you know, I agree with you so much. It's crazy.
They don't come out with a native accent from the start. And that's just silly to say that, because unless you don't have kids, how would you not know that? You don't have brothers or sisters. You never heard them talk.
Well, let me ask you, because pitch accent, always when that comes up, it comes.
You brought it up because you keep bringing it up. That's why it keeps coming up.
I need the dopamine fix for us to talk about pitch accent. I'm actually more pro pitch accent than early on, but I thought the same thing about Chinese tones. So it's like, oh, am I going to remember a pattern 2, 3, 4, or am I just going to go 中国人? And just when I hear 中国人, I don't know what rang tone is if it's 3 because I always forget.
It's actually 2.
Exactly. Does that number matter to me? No. What matters is when I say 中国人, I got to go up. I just got to remember that. And when something's a 4th tone, which is the strong one, yeah, I got to remember to hit that hard. So for me, I'm just like, I feel like I'll get it eventually. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'll answer that question in just a second. We have a few questions. One from Mobic in Argentina. We don't have those labeled cultures. I'm a self-learning guy who likes to study many hours a day, chat with Japanese people at the Japanese embassy, and diversify my study a lot. He also has teacher Tommy. Tommy's been teaching him a little bit.
Oh, wow.
And he had a teacher for a short time, but told me it didn't work out. But now he's at a level where he doesn't need a teacher anymore. If you're studying for N2 and you're in the intermediate stage and getting into pre-advanced, you don't even need a teacher anymore. That's about the time where I stop with a teacher. Drunken Smurf says, in my first conversation encounters with native speakers of whatever tongue I'm learning, I always say to them, I know the words, but I don't speak your language well. So you can understand, but don't know how to reproduce. Well, reproducing is a lot harder. Last stream, I said, I can understand Xi Jinping, the chairman of China, when he gives a presentation, he gives a speech on stage. Can I get up there and say that? No. Can I write that speech? No, but I can understand it because input is a lot easier than outputting it yourself. And I'd have to work up to that level. But just because you can understand it doesn't mean you're there.
My Japanese comprehension is probably double what I actually use in my own vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But if I hear something enough, I'll start integrating it. But it takes a lot to add a new word from, when you're not used to saying. And with Japanese too, there's like 3 ways to say the same thing. I'll hear something and what does that mean? You look it up and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I already say this like 2 different ways. Do I need another way right now?
Yeah, well, you just taught me another way to say ugly in Korean earlier that I didn't know.
I'm
going to write that down.
I don't think that actually means ugly. I think it's more like it might be more to do with personality. I would double check that one.
Okay. We'll look it up later.
But the fact that 不好看 in Chinese does mean ugly, right?
不好看 is not, it can mean ugly or not attractive, not good to look at. It could describe food. It could describe animals. It can describe people.
Yeah, so I feel like pyogam in Korean is more like, it might be, don't quote me on this because I don't really use this word, but it might be ugliness. Or the thing, like, you are ugly. I don't think they say it. They don't use it that way.
Shout out to Scott, our moderator. Thanks for being here. And I got to answer the good question that George just brought up about input. Can you remind me of that? What that question was again?
About tones, actually. I think.
Okay. The tones in Chinese. What about them?
So obviously, like when I studied Chinese, I was learning the tones, but there was like tone pairs and stuff like that. I never did the tone pair stuff because it felt so boring and tedious. And then at one point, I kept like mixing up which was number 1 tone, which was like the number. I could not remember the number, but in my head, I see it as like it's an up. It's wo.
That's how it's written in pinyin. So that's not surprising that you visualize it that way.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm wondering how you feel about like when you studied Chinese, were you like hardcore trying to put numbers to the tones, or were you just like, I hear this word, I'm aware that tones exist, let me just repeat it that way?
That didn't quite work, and that's what really messed up my Chinese in the beginning. I could kick myself, and I said this last time, because I don't have a record of how my Chinese sounded when I started and how it is today. I have a little bit of a record of what my Japanese was 4 years ago and what it is today, but you can't see the progression. I was not good at tones in Chinese in the beginning, and I'm seeing that again in Cantonese. Am I good at tones now? Yes. I rarely make tonal mistakes. I polished it up so much, and I asked my tutors to be merciless. And I used to move my head like to signify the tones, like Beijing, Beijing, Shanghai. And I would move my head very awkwardly, and it was so unnatural sounding. And I'm going through the same thing again with Cantonese, which I didn't think would happen because at least I know the Mandarin tones, but it's happening again. And in the beginning, now with Cantonese, I kind of have to accept the imperfection that I just have to get the gist of it because I'm really struggling with the tones. And I have hope, the light at the end of the tunnel, that I will work it out because I worked it out with Mandarin. And even with Japanese, I worked it out more with and continuing to work it out with Japanese. So you're not stuck with what you have and you can improve. And I think everyone starts kind of at that low level where they don't sound good from the beginning.
That
and
was
then
something
they
I used to say, that once you have a bad problem, it's really hard to fix. I'm like, I don't know. I fixed so many of my Japanese problems. And I have a record of me speaking Japanese in 2002 because of the George and Keiko show. When I watch those, I'm like, oh yeah, you can hear, not pitch accent included, and my accent and the way that I'm saying things is so not as good as it is today because I've had that much more conversations in those 20 years.
Oh yeah. Living with Tommy now, he's helped my phrasing, he's helped my intonation a lot. Just living with him and not aggressively studying it or putting that on the table and I gotta study the tones. It was just through conversation and hearing him that my Japanese began to improve kind of naturally. Just imitating him.
Have you heard that
through
Russian proverb? I think it's repetition is the mother of fluency.
Right. But not everybody has a Japanese spouse, so maybe they have to put more effort into it.
Yeah, go get one.
Go get one. Mobek already has a wife. That's going to be hard.
They sponsored by JapaneseSpouseFinder.com.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh. Well, do you have any other questions or pressing things that you wanted to talk about on this stream? You have the floor.
Oh my gosh, pressing things. Well, hopefully I didn't interrupt you a ton like I did when I had an interview with Matt one time. So hopefully I was good there.
I'm pretty chill. I like to give my guests the floor, and I think what you had to say was very helpful to the audience. So,
I mean, I've never been like hardcore with Japanese or even Korean. I'm hardcore, I guess, when you look at it from the outside, but I've never I'm going to study so many hours a day. I've never had that ever because I'm too, I guess, ADHD or whatever.
Like, you got an early start that had to help.
True with Japanese, but Korean I started at 0. Chinese I started at 0. Actually, that's not true. You can't say 0 if you already have Japanese.
I guess I meant your age, but then Korean was much later in life. Yeah.
Yeah, but I actually, the studies show that learning other languages after you already know another language is easier anyway.
True. It is.
Because one thing that I think people don't think about is that the brain itself doesn't accept different ways to read a word or different ways to say a sentence. So part of your learning a language is learning that you have to be able to break up. I always like to call it like, have you ever driven down like an icy road? You can't just turn the wheel. You got to break that ice up. And that's what you do in your first language is you teach your brain that gyunyu can also be milk, and miruku can also be milk, and uyu can be milk. And so once you learn different, what is it in Chinese? How do you say milk in Chinese?
How do you say milk in Chinese? I got to switch my Chinese brain on right now. Niu nai. Sorry. I was looking at our moderator jumped in the chat.
You can't underestimate how hard it is to switch languages. I was at a language meetup once and I was having a fight with some guy who was angry at me because I wasn't speaking Chondenmal or something. And I was like, well, we're speaking in English though.
Formal.
And we were going back and forth. And it's, you want me to speak Japanese? And then I tried to switch to Japanese. I couldn't do it. I could not switch to Japanese. In the moment I was still in Korean mode. Yeah, I couldn't do it. My brain was like, it's like trying to start a lawnmower. It's like, I can't do it.
Yeah. I know that feeling. My Korean teacher makes me translate all the Korean textbooks and the dialogues into Japanese on the spot, and it's really hard. Sometimes I'm like, anju, how do you say that in Japanese? Otsumami. Oh my gosh, she's like pulling teeth.
People ask this all the time, and I know they ask you, and my answer used to be different, but they say, hey, do you think I could learn 2 languages at once? And I used to always say, wait until your Japanese is more solid before you move to the other.
Well, that's fair.
No, I'll tell you why it's not, in my opinion. I'll tell you why. Because can we say my Japanese is pretty good, right? Like I'm there. So I could go learn Korean. It won't mess me up, right? It messed me up. It affected my Japanese
I heard you say that.
a lot. So it's like in Japanese it's like KY, right?
Kuki o yomanai hito.
Right. Like he can't read the air. Well, in Korean, they say 눈치가 없어. he has
Oh,
no
yeah.
recognition, like 눈치가 없어. So I would be like, 야,彼は눈치가ないですよ. And it sounded
Uh-oh.
wrong. I would mess up.
Wow.
Yeah, it messes up your Japanese. And my Chinese messed up my Korean when I started learning Chinese. I'd be like, boo, boo, boo. You know, I'd be like, mess it up. So, I mean, I don't want to like keep droning on. I know you're probably trying to like,
No, I'm taking it all in because I've had that happen, those language slip ups, but it was so small. It was so small every once in a while. I remember people catch it in the videos very rarely, and they caught it after my editing too. Like there was a t-shirt I read and it said Kaigun in Japanese, and I read it
Navy.
Haigun, hai, which is
Ah,
hai is kai
Yep.
in Chinese. And I said it was such a little thing, and I didn't notice it even through the editing. They pointed it out, but I mean that's like super small.
Well, the
and
thing
not too
about
often.
being on YouTube is you and me, right? Or anybody that's on YouTube, you're super exposed to the whole world. And there are people that know a lot of stuff. And even if they don't know a lot of stuff, they know that one thing. So it's easy to get, it sucks to be on YouTube sometimes in that you build a thick skin because you like if you're in a conversation with a person, you can make 50 mistakes in a minute and you're still gonna have a conversation. But and this is why I typically don't speak foreign languages to other foreigners, because you're both like on the layout, you know, you're looking for those mistakes. I'm not a fan of it. I did it with you. I typically don't do it because it's like I gotta really like pay too attention. What if I say something wrong? They're gonna be hyper aware of it. Yeah. I do love to foreigners though of that language.
Yeah, it is fun. Speaking to Russians and Japanese and stuff. Our moderator actually is a ex-AJAC guy, and I was wondering if you have any advice for him. So he came over to my channel because he had done that method for a long time, and he can read in Japanese, but he can't form his own sentences and he can't speak. So what would you say to someone who's struggling with something like that?
Well, I actually say this to anybody that starts, but it really applies here. The first thing you have to do, like if you're coming from that situation, in my opinion, is think about the things that you like in your life. Like if you're a camera person, learn how to talk about your cameras. If you like, I don't know, if you're a headphone guy, like learn how to talk about headphones. Get very, very selfish with the language because you will not lose interest in that. Learn how to talk about the things that you love. Start there. Then the next stage is if you have a Japanese friend, let's say he's into phones, learn to talk about his hobby. And then from there, you'll already have so much that you'll be bleeding into other areas, but you have to start very selfish with Japanese. That's why getting a teacher somewhere,
paid friend.
I'm so shocked that you say that because that's literally my go-to phrase. It's like, it's a paid friend. It's so worth it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. For Scott, he can already read through most simple Japanese novels, but he can't form sentences. And I mean,
because that is the hardest thing to do. That's all of your skill together is speaking because it's I don't know. It's every skill together. Well, actually, every skill together is simultaneous interpreting, probably. But the step before that is having a conversation.
I think he waited a long time until he had a lot of vocabulary and stuff, and just kind of put speaking on the back burner. And he waited so long with it that he doesn't have that foundation. He's kind of starting from nothing.
Here's the biggest advice I always give people: say what you can say, not what you want to say.
Oh, so that's true. People get caught up translating.
Let's say, this is the example I always give. If you have a migraine, you know that in Japanese? Henzutsu, right? So it's henzutsu. But let's say you don't know that, but you want to say, oh, I have a migraine, and you're stuck on, I have a migraine. You literally lose all ability to talk, but you could just say, atama ga itai desu.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even need zutsu, just atama ga itai.
Right, and then you know what that would open up to is now you've outputted atama ga itai desu, and you know what that leads to? Amazing input in a very specific section. They might say, zutsu desu ka? Headache? And you're like, zutsu, and you look it up, you're like, and you're like, chotto chigau, a little bit different. And then it's zutsu, and then they go, oh, henzutsu hyotto shite. And like, and you look up, oh yeah, that's the word. And now you have an experience with Japanese in a conversation. You will not forget henzutsu. You will not.
Oh yeah, you'll never. It's hard to forget your mistakes, especially if they're embarrassing too. So it's not always bad to have embarrassing mistakes as well.
It could come up 400 times in Anki and you won't remember it.
Oh yeah.
The minute you have it in an experience.
It's your passive memory. It's not in your active memory.
Yeah, that's the magic pill, honestly, just using Japanese, trying to say. And the thing is, the catch-22 about the say what you can say, not what you want to say is, if you can't say something that you want to say, then go learn it, then you can say it.
Yeah,
And that's what you keep building.
I had a friend that was really funny, kind of in a selfish way in China, but I get it. I get it. He was American, and he would learn a word like 实验室. 实验室 is like an experimental laboratory. And he said, I learned 实验室 today. So he just talked to his friends. They'd see in his colleagues, Chinese people, and he'd find an excuse to use that word and just randomly use it on them, like literally use them to test out this word to see if he said it right in the right context. And he'd do that with almost all his vocabulary. Go home, learn a few new words, test them on people the next day randomly. And it must have gotten into some weird conversations, but it worked. It worked.
I go to those classes in the morning, and that for me, it's not a word or two, because I find ways to use words all the time. It's the grammar. And then at night in the language meetups that I would go to, I would just like try to swing the topic to that thing and then use it and then watch for the reaction. Because the worst thing you can do is, hey, I'm going to say some Korean to you. Can you tell me if I'm right? Because now they're in analysis mode. But if you're in a conversation that's free and unencumbered, where they're not on guard dog mode, they will, if they react well and the conversation keeps going, you did it right. If they go a confused look, I mean, I came up with some of my best Korean jokes trying to use a grammar, and I got so many laughs. I'm like, why are they laughing? Oh, because I'm like an old lady way of saying it. I didn't know, and they thought I was trying to be funny.
Right, right.
Man,
this is a good one.
Great.
Kawaii and kawaii. I accidentally called a woman's body scary instead of cute in Japanese. Yeah, that's a common mistake with that Westerners make. They get kawaii and kawaii mixed up.
I added that in book 2 recently because it's such like, it's like the number one mistake. Another guy I heard said, Nihongo, he said, Nihongo wa muzukashii ne, but he said, Nihongo wa murasaki ne.
Oh, no. Or ninjin and ningen. I've heard people mess that up. Watashi wa ninjin desu. What?
Oh, you know, writing letters to my wife, because back in the day we didn't have the internet. We were writing letters back to each other. And I was saying, there are no perfect humans, but I wrote it in big letters in kanji. I wrote, Kanpeki na ninmon ga inai.
What is ninmon?
And I still catch crap over that today.
Oh, should never let it go. I work with Canon. Could an American choose a Japanese name for work? My name is Rusty Sessions. Is hard for Japanese natives. Yeah, well, I'm thinking, is this Utah? Utah? Yeah, Utah.
Can I answer that? No, don't do that. Koreans do it all the time. Like, my name is Stella. I'm like, your name is not Stella. What's your name? That's
his name is not Tommy either, but we call him Tommy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, it's out.
Told me at least. Or something. I don't know. Oh, you can't.
It's nothing to do with his first name. No.
It's funny. I thought from a guy named Tony, but he was Japanese also. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a fan of like taking the Japanese names, or Korean names.
Mine worked like your daughter's name is Arisa. Mine also can be written in kanji, so I just took that. Mobek said the lady I talked to in the Japanese embassy wants to learn Argentinian Spanish, and I needed someone to practice speaking for free. Both happy to talk, all because I asked her if, oh my gosh, what is this? Take no spoon. Oh, and we start talking.
That's a good one. In Japanese.
Take no spoon.
Oh, here it is.
Oh,
Take spoon. I told you she does that.
Take spoon. That sounds very professional.
No, that's what she always does, but she doesn't know.
Oh, here we go. Chashaku. I've never heard that. You taught me something. Chakushaku. Okay. Chashaku. Oh yeah, chashaku. Chashaku. I guess I've eaten with a bamboo spoon before. There's a special word.
That's the phrase I try to not say anymore, because I say it like every 5 minutes. I've never seen that word. I've never heard of that word.
I'm gonna write that down. Thank you, Mobek. Chashaku. I don't know why I'm getting, or chashaku. I don't know why I'm getting.
I'm gonna say it right now.
But it's on there.
Get that word and not use it, because there's never a time in my life where I can imagine I need a bamboo spoon. Just throwing that out there.
And then it happens tomorrow. But that's cool.
That sucks. I was like, oh, there it is.
Oh no, I should have taken. It's part of the chado ceremony. Okay. It's part of chado. So it's like kind of senmon yogo. Okay. Well, there's a lot of like senmon yogo, yabusame, kyudo that I've done that they have these words that are not common, but that's cool. Now I
But
know it.
that's what I'm saying. Like, learn the things that you're interested in. So if you're into like archery, or if you're into chado, yeah, you got to learn all those words because you know it, but no one around you might not know it, right? And even some Japanese people won't know it because
Sometimes, yeah.
Japanese doesn't mean everyone knows it.
Specific.
对对
Yeah. 对，没问题。对，没错，没错。Kyudo. Yeah, Kyudo. Yeah, there's a lot of Kyudo words I learned when I did that. And then I told Tommy when I came back, he's like, huh? What are you talking about? What's that?
What's that Japanese kendo? So there's like kendo, right?
Yeah.
And like
Kendo is with the stick.
Yeah, and they're like kote. Like they have words for that as well. Like if you know kendo, you know those words, but how I know them, I don't use. I only know that because my wife did kendo. So.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool though.
That's
all right. Any last pressing things you want to say before we wrap it up? And I'll say bye to everybody, but we don't want to keep George all day. Okay, we'll have him on the show again.
One of my guys, WTF man, said Guns N' Roses is anime because normally I wear like whatever random shirt. I only chose this because you chose the Guns N' Roses shirt. You chose like an amazing. Thank you for the great thumbnail work because I look great. Easily 7-8 years ago, probably this because I'm like, oh, I was so young back then.
I want to pick the best picture, like show everybody's best face. I know people like to shit on me sometimes. I want to be the opposite of that. I want to be the person that's not a jerk.
That's just jealousy, probably, if they're shitting on you. A lot of people want to be where you are. Matter of fact, when the stream ends, I'm going to be doing shitting on you on my stream. The title.
Do what you got to do. Did you hear her Korean at 1 a.m.?
Did you hear Jordan Korean? He seems a little bit rusty. That guy's named Rusty right now.
Oh yeah.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
But all right. Talking with you for real for the first time.
I hope it's the first of many times. And next time you're in Japan, don't be a stranger.
Yeah. Well, it's on the brain. Once it gets on the brain, I start thinking, and then before you know it, I have a ticket. So
okay.
Yeah. So before summer hits again, I will. So within the next like 6 or so months, I'll be in Japan and we'll hang out.
Okay, keep in touch.
And Tikyo Sam.
Yeah, he's already sleeping. He's out. He's gonna watch this on replay.
We'll all get motorbikes and we'll just travel the country.
That sounds epic. All right. Well, thank you so much to our guest, George. I'm going to keep this stream going for a little bit longer, but he's got big stuff. He's got people to see, things to do, and he woke up at 7:20 a.m. So good on you. All right. Thank you so much. Jane. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay. We have Marie is in the chat. All right. I'm going to catch up with you guys because I'm sorry, I got really into that conversation, but we had a good time. Now I'm going to give you guys the attention that you need and deserve. Marie said, I went to Japan. We had no issues with my first name, but it was a bit confusing that I actually pronounced the E the same way as the Japanese. Yeah, Marie. That's not going to be too hard for Japanese people to understand. Marie is from Norway, so maybe the Norwegian language is a little closer to Japanese. I know some European languages are like Spanish. Mine kind of fit into Japanese all right, so I just go by Arisa. All right. Yes, thank you, George. It was nice to have him on here. Wasn't that fun? I mean, I feel like we could have talked for another 2 hours easily. We were both so full of passion about learning Japanese and talking about it. and him and I are in agreement with a lot of things. So that was interesting to have him on here. I've watched a lot of his videos and his channel is truly underrated. So go show him some love. That's the Learn Japanese from Zero channel. Scott, if you could help me out, put his channel in the chat just so we have it up there. If people want to go and give him a sub, I would appreciate that, Scott. Now getting back to your pressing questions, I was a little distracted, so I want to know what you guys are thinking about the things we went over. Was my assessment of Duolingo for Japanese too harsh? I mean, I bet I wouldn't completely rule it out because I think for a language like Cantonese, which I'm studying, it might be the best thing out there for Cantonese. There's just so little material. I'm having trouble finding material in Cantonese, so I would consider it. But for a language like Japanese, where there's so much, that's just a plethora, I said plethora, a plethora of material out there, is Duolingo the best option? Well, at the end of the day, for a hobbyist, you're just doing it for fun. And if you enjoy it, I mean, keep on trucking, and I think it could teach you something, right? Thanks for the Cantonese tip, An Ming. What can I give as tips for Cantonese? Did I give any tips? I don't remember giving tips. I just said that I was really struggling with the tones, as I was in the beginning with Mandarin, but I cleaned that up so much. I used to ask my tutors to be merciless with my Mandarin. Once I had that foundation, I'm like, point out every single mistake I make, every single one. And I'm going to read this paragraph to you, and I'm going to pretend to be a newscaster, and you tell me every little thing that was wrong with it. And that was a little painful, but it did work. Tips for Mandarin. Tips for Cantonese and Mandarin, I think we could put those together. The tones cannot be ignored, but you're going to be really rough on the tones in the beginning. So don't let that dishearten you. When you do write the words and you try to practice, all right, well, we'll use, I know that this is a Japanese kanji, but we can also pretend it's Chinese for a second. All right, this is Nihon, obviously, but we'll call it Ruben. Ruben is the Chinese word. So I would take a piece of paper and I would write the tone like that. Downward, it's the fourth tone, and then Ben, the third tone, Ruben. And I would write it across the paper, Ruben, 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 Ruben. I sound like a crazy person, but that's what I would do, and repeat it out loud. And that helped a lot with memorizing the tones. I actually do the same thing for Korean and for Japanese as well. I write the hiragana and I do say it out loud. That's my exercise. That helps me with memorizing the words so that I can pull them up in conversation later. And I believe that would work for you with Cantonese as well. What do you guys think the best app or website for learning is? Well, if you're a beginner, I always start with Pimsleur, but Pimsleur has 5 months of material for Japanese, which means you'll have to move on to something once you finish that. And I was reading a comment today from a viewer that said they're using Pimsleur, but they listened to the lesson 4 times before they move on. And I thought, wow, I bet I know what is going on there. They're not doing it daily, because those lessons should be 30 minutes a day. And if you skip a day, you may feel behind. So you'd go back and listen to it 4 times, but that's not ideal. You should be consistent with it, 30 minutes a day, and you'll be able to move on to each lesson. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make, is they just do a little here, little there, little here, little there. You got to commit to it. Got to put those 30 minutes in a day. It's okay to miss a day here and there, but if you're missing huge days in between, it's going to be one step forward, one step back, one step forward, one step back. That's going to go for any language you're studying. Pimsleur sounds Dutch. Where's it from originally? It is an American company. Did you say that you go to the Pod 101 after Pimsleur? Yes, I do. And I'm doing that again. I just signed up I paid money, folks. All right. All right, George was very honest. He said, hey, I'm selling a book, so I'm biased. Keep that in mind. Dogen's also very honest about that. He says, I'm promoting this part of Japanese, but remember, I'm also selling a course on it. I ain't selling anything. I'm an affiliate, but it's really a very small percentage of my income. So I just kind of say it how it is. I just paid my own money for Cantonese Class 101 the other day, because I really ran out of material. I couldn't find any books. And I'm like, well, I did Pod 101 in Japanese years ago. I did it with Korean a year and a half ago. All right, I got it for free the other times. This time I actually paid my own money for it. So do I believe in it? Yeah, well, enough to pay for it, and I'm using it. So I do like their series. And in a situation where I am not able to find Cantonese recordings, I need to hear people's voices. It's so important with Cantonese. It's a spoken, slangy, dialect kind of language, and I can't use books for it. It doesn't work with books. I need to hear it. It's a very slangy spoken language. So yeah, I just paid my own money for that. So yeah, I like it a lot. And I'm like, please save me. Please. I need something. I find it very helpful. Haven't used these two, so I can't say anything about those. But Busu makes me laugh because the name Busu is ugly woman in Japanese. Write that down, everybody. Busu is ugly woman in Japanese. Take note. That's what it means. Next time you want to insult someone, just call them Busu. Make sure it's a woman. Busu. There. I put that in the chat for you. YouTube rejected your comment. You can't reject my own comment. What the heck? Eh? What the heck? Let me read it again. You can't, I'm the creator. You can't reject my comment. There, it went through. I wrote it in katakana. It just rejected me. Well, if you ever find a situation where your comment didn't show up on YouTube that you wrote to me, it even rejects mine. What the heck? Sexy white girl. That is not what Busu means, but on a different topic, Busu. I taught you Busu, and YouTube doesn't like it. They just tried to censor me on my own channel. What is this? By the way, folks, it's about 1:30 in the morning here, Japan time, so I recommend you get your questions and your last questions of the night because I'm going to be hitting the hay. I got some plans tomorrow, but unless you want to throw out a super chat, maybe you'll convince me to stay up past my bedtime. But generally, I think we'll go on for about 5 more minutes, unless you're feeling really generous. Otherwise, I'm gonna go to bed. Busu didn't mean ugly women in Japanese. Yes, it does mean ugly woman in Japanese. And then the even worse word is debusu, which means a fat, ugly woman. Oh my gosh, I'm teaching you the nicest things. This is why YouTube is blocking my comments. Usually it's written in katakana, but for some reason, this YouTube is, the automated AI is correcting my katakana and blocking my comments. Debusu is a fat, ugly woman. Busu-sen. Busu-sen is very slangy. Busu-sen is the kind of guys that only date ugly women, or debusu-sen, only date fat chicks. Wow, am I teaching you some stuff you really don't need to know. But anyway, moving on. Debusu, Busu-sen, Busu. What's your bedtime? I usually go to bed at about 2 a.m., so it's 1:30. We're getting there. We're getting pretty close. In my country, busu means is a short term. Okay. In Japan, it means what I told you. She's like, hey, say nice things. Sorry. I was laughing at my own stupid joke and breathing into the microphone. Yeah. So anyway, I had the microphone way too far away in the last one, so now I'm overcompensating and it's really close. All right, any questions about what we talked about today? Hope I didn't offend anybody. If I did, so be it. Did you see my community post? If you're really a hardcore follower, I made a post about how another YouTuber, a big YouTuber, actually, I found my footage in his video. And I mean, that's kind of normal for YouTubers to take clips from other people's videos. Pretty much everybody does that. But in the context of, it being just almost the same title, almost the same theme, my talking points in there, and my footage was in there, and he's doing a video about Tokyo, and he used my Osaka footage. I was just like, what the hell is this? And I reached out to him because I didn't think that was, I don't know, that made me kind of upset. I felt a little sour about that. If you saw that in the community tab, he did reply to me. I got to see what he said. I just asked to be credited in the description, but I felt a little sour about that. I'm like, watching this video, I saw it on my homepage a few weeks ago. I'm like, somebody else did a video about that place. And then I clicked on it. I'm like, hey, that's my footage and my theme. And what the hell? And pretty much everything I said in the original video repackaged and put with my footage. And that's not Tokyo, that's Osaka. You can't find that much garbage in Tokyo, but apparently that has happened before. That I contacted him. He said, and it was, Drew. I contacted him and he said, oh, my editor pulled stuff from other people's footage and I didn't do it, or it was a mistake or something. But yeah, apparently a lot of other YouTubers got mad about that same thing happening. You can't really file a copyright strike, like a legal claim against it, because it is in fair use, but it's still a moral issue, in my opinion. It certainly didn't make me feel very good about it. Not even just the clips, but the whole thing, the whole package. It just seemed like a ripoff of the video I did from what I saw. But I mean, yeah, what can I do? I asked to be credited in the description, and that's about, what am I going to say? Take the video down? That's too much, but I think give credit where credit was due. Well, if he uses a really short clip and comment, that's one thing. Yeah, well, legally, there's nothing there, but morally, I mean, the whole damn theme of the video was pretty much my video redone, but, you know, we're discussing it. I hope we can work it out. But I know other YouTubers were really irritated about that. They replied on my post that had happened to them, or they knew about that same thing going on, that YouTuber had done that. At least he came here and he actually filmed his own video. A year and a half ago, I felt really sour about another YouTuber, a guy who's much smaller. Drew is huge. Drew Binsky is huge, but a guy that's much smaller. He did something that made me feel even more upset. He didn't even come here. He didn't film anything. He just took other people's footage, compiled it, and then put a narration over it. And that was a YouTuber called Explained with Dom, and he does this for multiple countries. And I found my footage in there, and the guy doesn't have a camera. He doesn't film anything. He just did his whatever Wikipedia search and got information about the place, and then did a video, capitalized on it, and just took little pieces of everybody's work. So no one person can make a claim on that video because they're all like little 10-second clips. But I think there's an ethical issue with that, especially when it's the issue of homelessness. Like the Dom Explained with Dom did a video about homelessness. Didn't bother to link any charities. Literally nothing's going back to the community. Nothing's going back to the homeless people. And then he exploited YouTubers, used their content so he didn't have to actually go to Japan and make the video. And just, that was all just bad. That really made me feel sour. But again, I wrote a comment on that guy's video, the same as I did with Drew. I said, hey, I found my footage in your video. Like, he hid my comment because I know nobody else saw it. The Dom guy, not Drew. And then he put my name in the description or whatever, but yeah, he hid the comment too. Like, obviously does this a lot, and I think that's just really exploitative of other YouTubers and of the topic of homelessness. Like, just throw a charity link up there. I know he made probably $25,000 off that video. I just think it's kind of crappy that he didn't even film himself. At least get on an airplane and go to Japan. At least Drew did that. Even if he took the theme and the talking points from my video, it was his video. He did something. He did a lot. But, what are we going to do? All I can do is make the community aware. And then this is a small way. If Drew didn't get back to me, which he did, we're probably going to work it out. I was thinking, do I have to make a video about this? Because I just think that we should be talking about stuff like that. And people just keep getting away with it. But, I mean, what more can I ask if he's just going to put my channel in the description? That's enough. That's, at least, it's a sign of respect. Yeah. It's definitely an ethical issue. I think so. Like, especially if you don't even film anything. You don't have to pay for a camera. You don't have to pay for the plane ticket to Japan. And you just rip off a bunch of YouTubers' clips, just little pieces, throw a narration over it, make $25,000 off homelessness, and then just call it a day. Yeah, that's an ethical issue. Anyway, enough ranting about that. That's just something that happened. $25,000 for one video? Yeah, hell yeah, it was $25,000. I know from being a creator myself, if it gets 6 million views on a 10, 15, 20-minute video, oh yeah, making that or more. And that's not even including a sponsorship. But I mean, the money's not really as big of an issue, but it's about homelessness. And it's not your footage. This is the Dom guy. I'm not talking about Drew at this point because Drew did come over here and film the video, but he could have thrown Drew still could have thrown the charity link up there, at least something. We have the Akirame Nai project that's out there doing this, trying to help those guys and raising as much awareness, raising awareness or telling people that this is out there is not really solving the problem, but just throwing a link up there would have been nice to the charity. I mean, that's up to the YouTuber. It's a gray area, definitely. So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, that's good money. Well, if you're coming all the way to Japan to film a video like that, I live here. But if you're traveling around the world, you have your expenses and your editors and stuff. Personally, if you didn't notice from my amazing production quality of my videos, not really. I don't have an editor. I do it all by myself. And I mostly use a GoPro camera, but occasionally, hey, why am I still using this? Occasionally, I will also use my Canon. I have an Insta360, but it's pretty low production value. I'm probably in the middle with production value. I know people that do even less. It's all about what the YouTuber prefers, but they have to cover their expenses. So, but yeah, $25,000 if it's just a narration, your voice narration on other people's footage like that explained what Dom did. Yeah, that. Then he just pocketed it because he had no expenses. He didn't even come here. But what are you going to do about it? I still think it's crappy. I think that was crappy. Yeah, Mobic's like, I keep my headphones on too. I forgot about it. I didn't even need it anymore. It was only to talk to our guest, learn Japanese from zero. I didn't like Drew's attitude toward the homeless guy. I didn't see that part of the interview. I was mostly focused on the beginning because of my footage being in there. But I heard people say in the comments section that kind of the same thing. And I mean, there was some stuff in there that was also not true. This is kind of splitting hairs. Like, that's not where most of Tokyo's homeless live. That's a really small. Most of Tokyo's homeless are at Tocho, the metropolitan building, which is in downtown in Shinjuku. If you've ever been there, you can get in there for free and see the whole city. That's where most of the homeless live. They gather around there because they get takidashi, which is handouts, free food, and it's kind of a protest to the government. Like, it's your problem, deal with it, Japanese government. So they camp out there, and also the police don't bother them. So Sanya does not have that many homeless. I mean, that's kind of splitting hairs. I really don't care if the video information is incorrect or whatever. I'm just like, if you're going to use my theme and talking points and then some of my footage, okay, please credit my video in the description. That's all I ask. And I think we'll be able to work it out. But even if you put footage of Osaka in a video you're calling Tokyo, whatever. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant too. Longtime fan, love your videos. Thank you so much. Shaya Shin. Nice to have you here this wonderful evening. I really appreciate that. That'll pay for the $50 fee I had to pay to upgrade the quality of this stream. What would you do with 4,000 euros if I donate? Well, I think we just got the stream covered. Jim came in here, so he paid it was $50 for me to upgrade the stream. If you donate 4,000 euros, oh my gosh, I would probably fall off my chair. I've never gotten a donation that big. That's crazy. The biggest donator to the channel is probably Jim, and I think overall he's given, and he's the biggest by a long shot, maybe over these years, literally years, has maybe given $2,500. I've never had a big donor like that because I don't really ask that much. Studio Gruff, good friend of mine. He was a fan originally. We became friends because he lived here in Japan and now he's back in America. And we were on the same flight going back to America. I visited last year, and Studio Gruff was on our flight. We kind of planned it that way, and Tommy was there too. It was real good. Come back, we miss you, Studio Gruff. Matt, come back, Studio Gruff. Miss you. Need you back. We had a lot of good times. Hung out in a group and went swimming and stuff. It was fun. All right. Yeah, 4,000. I'd just fall off my seat if somebody donated. Well, if you really wanted to do that, I don't think you do, but if you really did, don't do it through YouTube because they take 40%. That's like a donation to YouTube. They do take 40%. Is huge. But they're giving me the convenience of this, I guess. I don't know. Most of the donations, I really do appreciate them. They're more for motivation, like reminding me that there's true fans out there that care. And it sticks in my mind more a $5 or $10 donation than an extra $500 from YouTube AdSense. It really does. Because YouTube is like a mental game. What is your opinion? Do you consider Japanese N2 fluent? Yes, I would consider N2 fluent. I don't consider N2 perfect. You're not done. There's still stuff you can study. You can study past N1, but yeah, I would consider that absolutely fluent. You can have a fluid conversation. I just spoke with George earlier, and we spoke a little bit in Korean. I can have a fluent, smooth conversation in Korean, but there's still a lot more for me to learn. So my standards for fluency as a teacher that I was for many years are you can have a fluent conversation without stopping a lot. You can engage, understand what's being said to you, answer the questions, talk back fluently without going or. Although I did do a long when I noticed Tommy hiding behind the counter out of the corner of my eye in a Naruto outfit. Did you see that? Tommy is a riot. Yeah, he got me off guard. So there was a big there. Mobeck says, I can have a normal conversations at the N3 level, getting for N2, but there's a ton of words that I don't know. I would consider Mobeck fluent, and Tommy would too, because Tommy talks to him and they talk for an hour. Yeah, when you could talk for an hour, you're fluent in Japanese. You're definitely fluent. Still working to N1. Getting ready for N2. Still working on N1. And then even past N1, there's still more to learn. There's still more yet. And you can still work on your accent and everything, as I am too. Any ideas for the next video? Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Nah, I mean, it used to be where I could just run down to Chinatown and do a video in a day, and come back with a video. Those days are long gone. The standards are high. The standards are high for two reasons. One, compared to when I started, there's a lot more competition. Number two, when you're an older face, I don't mean age old, but when you've been on YouTube for 4 or 5 years and you've done, hundreds of videos, yeah, the audience wants novelty. You got to one up yourself. So reactions that maybe would have gotten a lot of views back 4 years ago, they don't have the same effect right now on my channel. Maybe a new face, someone else it would, but that's why I don't have any videos right now. I'm a little, I can go to Chinatown. I can try to do it tomorrow, but it's probably going to take about 4 trips at this point to get enough content for one video. The standards are that high because I think you've seen enough of me now. And yeah, what a convenient excuse not to do my job. That's one reason I'm doing this live stream. Not only did I want to talk to George, I wanted to put some content out this week. It's been 2 weeks since I last did a video. I got nothing right now. I'm sorry. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't have anything practical. But for this week upcoming, we're going on a family trip on October 12th. That's 6 more days from now. So for the next week, I got nothing. Nothing, you guys. But I do have hope because Halloween's coming up. We have a video then. And I'm going to Akita Inaka School in Akita to film a video with them. And then next week, we're going on a family trip. Hopefully, I'll make an in-laws video. But I don't have anything for the next 7 days except my live streams. So sorry. Standards are really high. It takes me 30 hours to make a video, 10 hours filming, 20 hours editing. So I got to make sure... Maybe 5 hours filming, 25 hours editing. I really got to make it worth my time because it's taken away from my study time. There's a balance to be had. If only people just watched everything I made, but I'm living in reality. I wish. You have incredible. Do you have an accent in Chinese when you speak it? Since when? Do I have an accent in Chinese? It won't come out. It won't come out unless unless, for example, I do a presentation. Have me do a 30-minute presentation like I used to do. Then it'll come out. When I used to do that for class, then things will come out. The non-native speaker part will show its face, but I can trick Chinese people on the phone very easily. That's no problem. They always think I'm Chinese. But my accent wasn't always good in Chinese. It's something I worked on over many years. But I don't have that, the evidence of that on YouTube. I can only show you my progress in Japanese and Korean. So hopefully I'll get to show how much my Korean's improved more than what I just did with George today. There's a woman who has critiqued Alyssa's Chinese. She says it's quite good. Well, I appreciated her. She is the wife of a guy who does the same kind of videos as me. To a certain extent, he did the language reaction videos. That's Lao Ma, not Xiao Ma, but Lao Ma, 口语 Chris 口语. And he's kind of fallen off of Western YouTube now. He doesn't do a whole lot, but he does more on the Chinese side. And I think his wife is a Chinese teacher. Yeah, she knows the difference between each YouTuber. I was very flattered by hers because I watched the whole thing and she said I was better than the others. I appreciated that. I know it, but for someone else to say it, I appreciated it. Do I have to broadcast it to the world? My Chinese is better than the others. Probably not better than Chris, but I do know other languages that Chris doesn't. But who cares? It's about being entertaining at the end of the day. That's not going to get you subscribers or big views. You just got to make entertaining videos. So who cares if my Chinese is better? It doesn't really matter. Don't matter in the YouTube world. Stroke order is useless. Here we go again about this is useful, this is useless, this is useful, this is useless. Remember, if you're a hobbyist, it's all technically useless. You don't have any use for it. It's just stroke order. It's not. Everything has its use. Natives know stroke order. If you're trying to be native-like, why don't you know it? They know it. My goal was always to try to mimic natives as close as I can. Will I get all the way there? I won't become native, but I'm trying to get as close as I can. And they know stroke order. How did you learn Chinese? We'll take a couple more questions and then I got to hit the hay. I learned it originally through audio lessons. And then I moved to China, studied by myself for the first 6 months, realized that had its limitations. Even living in China, it had its limitations. I was in the mindset I didn't want to spend a single penny on it. I don't know why. I just felt like I didn't need to spend any money on this. Should be done for free. And then I enrolled in a Chinese school, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. Did that for 6 months. And I was like, why have I not been doing this all along? That was the most progress I've ever made, that I could have ever made on my own. Like I went from here to boom. Incredible progress. And then after that, I cut it back and I had a tutor. So it wasn't 4 hours a day, 5 days a week anymore. It was like 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then once I passed the HSK, then I didn't need a tutor anymore. Yes. It was a long process. At a certain point, you don't need to pay for a teacher anymore. In the very beginning and getting closer to the end, I think a teacher is best for more in the middle. You get the best bang for your dollar. Keep politics out of the chat. Who is bringing up politics? I don't know. Actually, people won't be able to see the chat on the replay. I got to figure out how to make that visible. Next one. But yeah, for the next one, ideally, if I'm not talking about stuff that's political, I would keep it relevant to what we're talking about right now. And you're in my Discord too. Miss this live. Have to rewind. Have a good night. Oh, well, there'll be more because I want to do this more regularly. I'm thinking that I originally said 1 a month. I'm thinking we should do 2 a month because why not? Especially when I'm struggling for content right now. I mean, there's just a bottleneck because I got 3 videos coming up in the middle and end of October. But like literally this week, I don't think I'll have a video out. I'll try. I'm doing shorts if that's any consolation. I am doing shorts. James, welcome. Did you just come in? Okay. ladies and gentlemen, my friends, I'm very happy to have you here today, but I'm also quite tired. So we're going to end this, and I'll be back Saturday, same time, not next week, not perhaps the week after. I am doing the Akita Inaka school thing. I'll figure it out. Maybe around Halloween. We'll do another one in October. I'll keep you updated. We'll chat again. Thank you for being here. Free Canada! Canada's in here. Keep Canada. I mentioned Canada in my video today. Last question. What's your favorite tea? I like pu'er cha. How do you say that in Japanese? I forgot how they say pu'er cha. It's really good. Otsukaresama deshita. Thank you so much. I like lots of teas. Oyasumi, midday for me, and it's midnight for me. Actually, almost 2 a.m. So I'm about to leave. Beth, you just missed it, but you caught the tail end. Everyone, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Oyasumi nasai. Wan-an. Good night. Annyeong ijumaseyo. I gotta throw Korean in there. How do you say goodnight in Cantonese? Oh no, for the next one. Oh, I actually don't know how to say goodnight in Cantonese. All right, next thing I gotta learn. Bye-bye. See ya. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you.